Up first, we have Austere with The Stillness of Dissolution. Just 14 months and a day after their 2024 album Beneath the Threshold was released, Austere did an almost immediate turnaround and has given us another slab of depressing yet exceptional black metal. The Australian duo's fifth album feels like the band exploring more of the black metal side of the band's sound, while still having the occasional post-black, acoustic, and other genre-bending moments that makes them stand out amongst the rest. The production is exceptional, and the songwriting hits that fine line of what songs need to be, all while never feeling like they go on for too long. While not sounding like a continuation of Beneath the Threshold, this does serve as a great album to pair with in one sitting. The songs hit just as hard, just a tad faster in parts, but the overall overwhelming melancholic nature never leaves. This is the kind of album that will either leave you feeling depressed or so relieved that you found something that can be so cathartic like this. This is easily one of the best black metal albums of the year so far. If you like your black metal on the very depressing side, Austere is the band for you. Next up, we have A to Z with A to Z Squared. The sophomore album featuring past and present members of Fate's Warning, Redemption, and more is a wonderful display of how to make the past and the present prog worlds work together in perfect harmony. So many moments on this album remind me of the glory days of 90s era Fate's Warning when Ray Alder first joined the band, and once you know it, Ray Alder is fronting this band as well, along with Mark Zonder on drums, and it just hits that style from the production, the songwriting, and it still finds a way to make themselves stand out and updated just enough with some more modern tropes and a bit of genre bending that gets as close to catchy AOR as I've ever seen them do. This album has a flair for catchiness that is undeniable, which proves that prog can be so much more than shredding and wanking. Although you do get both of those in here, it is prog after all, it's not prominent. This may fly under the radar for some, but it really shouldn't. This is an incredible album that is worthy of any prog fan, and hey, any rock or metal fan in general of a certain persuasion. This has everything that you want and will be stuck in your head for days. What a brilliant album. Next, we have Bear Mace with Slaves of the Wolf. The third album from the Chicago band featuring past and present members of November's Doom, Black Sites, and more is that classic style of OSDM old school death metal that just makes me so happy. It never gets too far into the brutal death metal styles, it never slows down enough to be death doom. It hits that fine line of OSDM that would make any fan of Bolt Thrower, Memoriam, Massacre, and more very happy like myself. The production is a bit raw, but it never loses its punchiness. The songwriting again is classic OSDM, and the performance on hand never goes out of their element. It's bringing back what worked so well in the early 90s and making it just modern enough for 2025. For any fan of that era, this is required listening, a sheer heavy display of how to do death metal in a way that sounds fresh, yet also very pit-worthy. Here we have Diabolish's Werk with Against All Gods. The sophomore album from this German death thrash band has totally won me over, blending both death metal and thrash in a way that almost gets into black metal territory at times, but still keeps that death metal growls intact and the speediness that both death and thrash make their own. This feels like such a glorious mix of Sodom meets Possessed in a way that has even more evil trademarks and authenticity behind it. The production is punchy, but it still has the rawness that you would expect, making for a pleasing, audible experience, which you don't normally get in this genre. And the songwriting on display feels so intense and potentially overwhelming, but it always finds a way to make the music on hand just really work out. If you missed that late 80s death thrash sound, you need to check out what Diabolish's Werk is all about. Next up is Gall's Word or Gall's Weird. I've heard it pronounced both ways, so I don't know exactly which one is right, with Braiding the Stories. The sophomore album from this quite experimental band is one that instantly grabbed my attention. It's been 6 years since their debut, proving that they are all about the quality, not the quantity. Gall and company have created a unique atmosphere that can hit as dark and evil as any black metal band, especially something like Gorgoroth, but they still find a way to keep things different enough by incorporating more elements of progressive, post-rock, even some folk. The production is pristine and gives the music a sophistication that you wouldn't normally expect in this style. If you're a fan of anything that Gall has done, or if you enjoy the likes of Enslaved, Isan, or even Wardruna, I know that sounds like a weird combination on paper, but you should give this one a proper listen. This one may not hit you right away on the first listen, but I guarantee you the more that you listen to it, the more captivated you will be, and it will take a long time for this one to get out of your listening cycle. I keep going back to it, and I keep finding layers every time. That's what a good album does. Marvelous work. Next up, we have Gruesome with Silent Echoes. I'll keep this one short and sweet, just like the album. Gruesome have returned with their death worship sound with Silent Echoes, their take on the human era of death, and it is glorious. Everything from the production to the songwriting to the performance on display sounds like that human album in all its greatest forms, just brand new music, featuring past and present members of Exhumed, Possessed, Malevolent Creation, and Castrator. The band continues to show their appreciation for the work of Chuck Schuldiner in a way we can only hope would make him proud. I'm so curious if they'll tackle the symbolic and Sound of Perseverance era of death. I know Matt Harvey is not a fan of those albums, but until that day, we are still in the pure death metal era and getting into the progressive death metal era of death, and I couldn't be more on board. Gruesome rules, and Silent Echoes continues the trend. Just put this on and enjoy everything Gruesome brings back from the dead. Next, we have Inglorious with 5. Back from a short hiatus, Glorious returns with their 5th album, and it is easily the most inspired the band has ever sounded to date. While the signature sound of the band is still fully intact, the band continues to experiment more with metal-esque styles, classic hard rock, stompers, and the occasional AOR moments that makes the album sound so varied and fresh from beginning to end. The production is polished and makes everyone shine. This is a band that knows how to create a hard rock album, and it's great to see them back and shining brighter than ever. This is what they're doing now when they're rejuvenated. I can't wait to see what the 6th album is going to sound like. Now we have Catatonia with Nightmares as extensions of the walking state. I didn't think I was going to get this promo, much to my dismay, but I was thankfully proven wrong when the label sent me a promo through the email, and it was more than worth the wait. I know the band is going through some turmoil right now, and that breaks my heart to see happen. I hate seeing really good friends have such a bad fallout, and I hope all the parties will come out the other side stronger than ever, but none of that takes away from the power of this album and what it has in store. If their previous album Sky Void of Stars is an updated version of Last Fair Deal Gone Down, which is my favorite Catatonia album, this is easily a modern version of The Great Cold Distance. What makes that album work out so well is the right moments of crushing riffs, the occasional odd time signatures, the dark atmosphere, and the overall vibe that progressive gothic metal can really be a mainstay. All of that is also here. The experimentation seems to have been left back with Sky Void of Stars, and this album is filled to the brim with the memorable Catatonia stuff that most fans love and cherish. This is an album that I hope has the staying power of The Great Cold Distance as well, as it more than deserves the praise, despite everything that's going on outside of the music. Also, the final track, In the Event Of, has become one of my favorite tracks the band has ever done. No matter how experimental or straight ahead the band is on every album cycle, they find a way to push themselves and to make the best music possible, and they've done that here once again. What a wonderful and of course depressing album. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Thomas Carlson's Transmission with Clockwork Sky. What a phenomenal release. The sophomore album from this one-man band hits everything that I love about the classic era of 80s metal. I'm not talking about thrash, I'm not talking about glam rock, but I'm talking about that budding era that pushed what became 80s heavy metal, progressive metal, and power metal, and the occasional AOR moments to create a heavy yet catchy atmosphere. While Carlson does not do vocals on this album, he has incorporated the likes of vocalists from Power Paladin, Scale of Alken, Silent Winter, and Blizzard Hunter to capture the power of the past, but also show how far we've come along in at least 40 years of these genres of rock and metal. The production is perfect for this style, and the songwriting could not be more inspired. If you love straight up metal, proggy stuff, AOR, and a little bit of power and glam, other stuff like that, you need Clockwork Sky in your rotation. It only gets better on every listen, and I know it will for you as well. And now for everything I missed, starting with Arm's Length with There's a Whole World Out There. The sophomore album from this Canadian band is a welcome surprise to my musical palette. With how much funeral doom, grindcore, symphonic black metal, etc. that I listen to daily, I need the occasional left of center band for my musical taste, and having a band that hits that late 90s, 2000s, and modern day sounds of pop punk, post-hardcore, and especially emo mixed together is something that just itches a scratch that I occasionally need, and this more than satisfies that. The production on this one is simply stellar. The songwriting is quite grandiose, especially for the genres, and lyrically, this hits way too hard. This reminds me so much of when Spanish love songs put out their magnum opus Brave Faces Everyone, but it's done in just a little bit of a different style. This really hits home for anyone that's ever come from a broken home and somehow found a way to be able to break free of all of it and move out on their own, but it still has all the horrors of what comes from the past, present, present, and the future. If you can relate to that, this could be one of the most cathartic albums that you hear in 2025. While this is definitely a left-of-center album for my own taste, this does resonate with a younger version of myself discovering music on my own, and this hits more for me than it would have at the time, which is quite shocking to me actually, but you know, hindsight is 2020. If you could use something like this as well, seriously, give this one a shot and see what it does for you. Next up is a band that I really hope that I get the band name right of, but I feel like I'm really gonna butcher it. Belne Yom, with Dark Tales of Zarathustra. I really don't know how you could call this anything other than a supergroup featuring legendary members of Flesh God Apocalypse, Nile, Annihilator, and more. This is a blackened approach to bands like Flesh God, but even more sinister. Seriously, this reminds me so much of like the last two Emperor albums, a nice healthy mix of that early to mid era of Dimmu Borgir thrown in for good measure. This is another one that I have been meaning to get to for quite a bit of time, but I'm glad I'm getting to it now, as this is a stellar display of what the genre can be. The production is raw, but it's more than made up for by the songwriting and the performances on display. This is a pure whirlwind of melancholic emotions that hit you from all guns blazing speed to the haunting slower movements and everything in between. If you have a love for that 90s, early 90s through mid 2000s symphonic black metal sound, you are doing yourself a disservice by missing out on this one for any longer, like I did for reviewing it. This is one of the best albums of symphonic black metal in 2025, bar none. Next up, we have Confessions of a Traitor with This Pain Will Serve You. The third album from this UK modern metalcore band instantly won me over with their blend of metalcore, electronic, and almost modern hard rock radio sounds. The sound is heavy, but it still has this catchy vibe to it all that wins you over if you dig the style. It's a very consistent album. It never really goes too far from what their core sound is all about, but there is enough diversity in that sound to keep you intrigued throughout. There's also guest appearances from bands like Moments, Exist Immortal, War of Ages, and oh, wait, this is another Christian metal band, isn't it? It didn't dawn on me until I was writing up the review for this one that they are of that affiliation, but as I've stated before, I listen to as much Neil Morse as I do Behemoth as I do Orphanland. As long as you don't preach or accept hate of others, I will still give you my support if I dig your music, and you're good people. But yeah, this is another example of the music truly doing the talking, and the lyrics will definitely be for some and not for others. The production is clear and polished, and the overall atmosphere of the album is exactly what it needs for this genre to be effective. If you dig the likes of Wolves at the Gate, who I just got done covering, and the heavier ends of Demon Hunter, and you dig those kind of bands, give Confessions of a Traitor a spin and see if they're right for you. Next up is Coven with Sorrows, and yes, it is pronounced Coven, I triple checked. The debut from this UK outfit is exactly what I love about this style. It can be nice, heavy, and doomy. It feels just evil enough. They also have this layer of shoegaze throughout all of this to make you feel like you are on track with the music on display. Add all of that together and you have one of the most captivating albums in Gothic Doom in 2025. If you dig the likes of Ancient Wisdom, Blood Ceremony, and Windhand, you are sure to find something to love here. This is music that we need right now in 2025, something that feels like it can take us away from all the pain and sorrow we are currently facing and introduce us to other kinds of evil and sorrow. But seriously, this is just polished enough production, excellent songwriting, and the overall atmosphere couldn't be more appropriate. This is a band that you need to look out for going forward. This is a powerhouse band that is just going to keep rooting stronger and stronger from here on out. Just watch. Next up, we have Despite, or it could be Despot. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I'm going with Despite. With a Finnish title I will never get right, but here I am butchering it. Från Melancholy till Meetingslott. See, I butchered that really badly. The third album from this Finnish blackened crust punk band hits an itch that I've needed for so very long, combining black metal, crust punk, and the occasional death metal, especially that HM2 style guitar tones going on, to soothe my soul, despite how fast, heavy, and dark this album gets. It's everything that you could possibly want in the style. It's 10 songs, 24 minutes, they get in, destroy everything in their path, and leave you wanting more. I can't even imagine what the pits would look like for a show like this. The production is clear, yet they still sound just raw enough to feel real. And the songwriting is lean and mean, and they leave absolutely no fat on the bone. I can't sell it any better than that. If you love the style, you need Despite, and I mean now. Now we have Eldamar with Astral Journeys Part 2 Dissolution. It's not often that you hear a black metal album that just relaxes you, soothes you, and helps you feel at peace, but that's exactly what Eldamar has done with their 4th album. I do say that even with the lyrical content being the exact opposite of that meaning, it will rip your soul apart with its sadness and existentialism. The production is very clear for atmospheric black metal, which you don't often get, and there's much more clean vocals than you may expect. The songs hit you so hard, and they have this staying power that makes you want to put it on anytime that you want to drift away from reality, and we really need that these days. If you enjoy the likes of Sojourner, Alcest, and I dare say even a band like Labyrinthus Stellarum, you will find something to love about Eldamar. It's so hauntingly beautiful that the music just has to speak for itself, and that message is quite bleak. Thankfully, the music is so gorgeous that you might not even mind your own demise. Next up, we have The Haunted with Songs of Last Resort. Has it really been 8 years since the last album from The Haunted? Sadly, it has, but they have more than made up for that with their 10th album, which may be one of their strongest albums ever. With a pristine production style and a songwriting formula that hits with full force no matter how speedy or mid-tempo things get, the band has returned and maintained their signature formula, which I've always said, in the Marco era anyway, was always a mix of At the Gates meets the demonic and the Gathering era of Testament. They leave everything on the table with 12 tracks, 40.5 minutes. Despite this just coming out, again, I think this might be one of the best albums that they ever could have made, and I'm so thankful for it. Every song feels like it's meant to be here, and the overall vibe just feels so appropriate. This is an album with true staying power, and The Haunted have proven that they are here to stay, and to continue pummeling everything that's in their path. Here we have Haunted Funeral with Soul Damnation. The debut album from this Portuguese outfit is quite a fun listening experience, despite the lyrical content hitting as hard in a cathartic nature that really comes from depression. It's a fun, catchy album filled with nice heavy riffs and some great mid-tempo stompers, but it is the lyrical content that resonates with me the most and leaves a very lasting impact. The band incorporates a nice healthy dose of mellow black, melodeath, and even some modern groove metal to create a sound that feels uniquely their own, yet it does feel familiar. If you mix the Okandra, the Black Dahlia Murder, and Gorgira in a blender, you might have a good idea of what's going on here. The production is a bit abrasive and raw, but it matches the atmosphere of what's going on. Shockingly, something that is this profound in its lyrical content and songwriting is going on in just their first release. Once they get more experience under their belt, they're going to go so far if the stars align just right. If you want something that can mix all of these genres and still feel natural, you should give Haunted Funeral a proper listen. Next, we have Hyena with About Rock and Roll. Despite the band putting out a ton of EPs, live albums, compilations, and singles, this Peruvian band has yet to put out an official LP until now, and that comes in the form of About Rock and Roll. Some brand new songs and some final versions of older songs. I know how I normally do things, but this is considered their first studio album, so suck on that. It's their first true LP, and the band just makes it for a great revival metal album that is more than worthy of their contemporaries. The production is that classic 1982 feel behind it all, just like think early Dokken, and the songwriting, while sounding old school, still sounds fresh and inspired at the same time, and the performances on display make for a very endearing listening experience from beginning to end. If you want a band that feels equal parts Saxon, Skullfist, Cauldron, and Tokyo Blade, you found that with Hyena. This is how revival stays relevant in 2025, and it's a very welcome thing to see. Here we have Inhuman Nature with Greater Than Death, and I'm going to keep this one nice and short as well, to match with the album. The sophomore album from this UK band feels like a continuation of Power Trip, but across the pond. This album hits so very hard with its mix of crossover thrash, hardcore, and the absolute power of its production, songwriting, and performance. This thing pummels you from pillar to post for 10 songs in just about 38 minutes, and still leaves you wanting more. Yeah, seriously, if you love the likes of Enforced, Toxic Holocaust, and yeah, again, very much so, Power Trip, Inhuman Nature is required listening. If that can't sell this album, what possibly could? Next up, we have Lord Vigo with Walk the Shadows. Lord Vigo returns with their most diverse album to date. On this German band's 6th album, they've always been known for doing this epic doom metal sound, but this album they threw everyone for a loop and started incorporating a nice healthy mix of goth rock into their sound. That is something I did not see coming, but I could not appreciate it more. To my ears, they've always had the sound of like Crypt Sermon, Chemist, Solitude Eternus, and Candlemass all thrown together, and of course all heavily inspired by Ghostbusters, but now well, they have this nice healthy coat of bloody hammers throughout all of it. It might take a song or two for you to understand what's fully going on here and to grasp it, but it is more than worthy of your time investment. While the production is still a little bit on the raw side, which occasionally happens on the epic doom metal sound, it's what I'm used to with this band and it fits perfectly for the style on display, and it makes everything feel a bit more ghostly and haunting. No, I did not mean to make a pun there, but it works, doesn't it? This is quite the shift in sound for the band, and I'm all here for it. This is a new chapter for the band, and I can't wait to see what comes next in this sound if they continue to do so. Or if this is just a one-off, I'm glad they at least tried it out, and honestly, I think it might be their best work. Don't skip out on this one if you're a goth and or doom fan. This is that chocolate meets peanut butter experience that you should never miss. Next up, we have Lycanthrope with Remnants of Rapture. The sophomore album from this Ottawa, Ontario band is my first foray into the band, but I wish I heard them on their debut. This combines the best of symphonic, speed, power, and traditional metal into a sound that is clearly made its own, and we are better off for it. It also makes me happy that my good friend John Pyers makes several appearances on this album on keyboards. It turns out he used to be in the band, but sadly had to drop out back in 2024, but he's also doing some stuff with Crimson Glory now, so I totally understand. In fact, there's actually a lot of guest appearances on this one, like Stu Block of Into Eternity and Laura Goldmond of Burning Witches doing some guest vocals. The production is punchy yet feels authentic. The songwriting, wow, just simply wow. This is incredible work. It truly feels inspired, with 10 songs, just about 47 minutes long, and filled to the brim with everything that makes this style of metal so great. So if you want that in your sound, please check out the latest offering from Lycanthrope. I can't imagine that if you like the style, that you'd be disappointed. Next up, we have Melphas with Extinct, another album I feel I'm getting far too late on, but I'm so glad I'm covering it now. The fourth album from the Swiss black metal outfit is such a sinister yet sophisticated piece of dark metal. At 9 songs and 45 minutes long, this feels like the perfect length for a punishing style of black metal on display. The music hits hard thanks to its excellent songwriting and overwhelmingly perfect production. It's dark, evil, satanic, and what you would hope the genre would sound like in 2025. If you want a band that feels like equal parts Dissection, Watain, and even early day Abigail Williams, you should give this one your full attention. Next up, we have Midnight Razors with The Crazy World of Midnight Razors. Gotta keep hitting that AOR quota that I put on myself, and I'm doing that here with Midnight Razors. If I'm getting my information right, this band has released 4 full-length original LPs in 6 months. That is mind-blowing to me. And their 4th album, and their first since they did a greatest hits album of the best songs of the first 3 albums, which also baffles me beyond belief, and they have created a fantastic horror-inspired rock album that hits all the genres that I love, from AOR to hard rock to even a cover of Bruce Brookshire's Run to Me, which is so far out of my element. To say this is a band that has range is quite the understatement. How they can make 4 full lengths and still sound this good and not burnt out is a jaw-dropping display, and I'm all here for it. If you want a band that can sound as much like Kenny Loggins as it does Cinderella as it does Ramones, honestly, I have no other way to describe it, but I love it all the same. If you want this kind of diversity in your sound, check out Midnight Razors. Here we have Obsidian Tongue with Eclipsing Words of Scorn. The 6th album from this atmospheric black metal band based out of Maine has gotten better and better with every subsequent album. I have loved this band since they opened for Agalock for, well, at least at this time, and still so far, their final North American tour, and they have only gotten better in that time. The production is raw, as you would expect from this genre, but it is done with enough bass and punch to make this a rewarding listen to those who even don't normally dig this style. The songs are bleak and heartbreaking, but there's also this faint overlay of optimism thrown in, which you don't normally get in this style, but it couldn't be more welcomed. There's also the faintest bits of progressive black metal and psychedelic black metal thrown in for good measure, and it makes everything stand out because of it. If you enjoy the likes of the aforementioned Agalock, Wolves in the Throne Room, and even Woman is the Earth, a dangerously underrated black metal band, you need to check out Obsidian Tongue and see what they're all about. This is a stellar album. Next we have Opharion with A Faraway World. Despite the band being around since 2008, and after taking a several-year break in between, this is the first release from this Turkish band, and I love what I'm hearing. This is that classic era of symphonic metal with the soaring vocals, grand symphonics, and the heavy atmosphere tying everything together. There's also this layer of progressive metal that doesn't feel forced and feels very natural in the sound. The production is that right balance of clear yet real, and the songwriting just just hits harder and harder with every single listen. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Revengeance, who I covered this year, Delane, Grave Shadow, and more. If you're loving this resurgence of symphonic metal in 2025 the way that I am, you need to check out more of that, especially from a band like Opharion. Next up, we have the Ossuary with Requiem for the Sun. 4 albums in 8 years from this Italian band is a pretty good track record, and while this is my first time hearing the band, they've instantly won me over. This is the perfect blend of doom, prog, and revival metal all thrown into one to create a unique atmosphere that never lingers on any one genre for too long, yet it all makes sense. The production is retro, but modern at the same time, which feels like a paradox, but once you hear it, it all makes sense. The songwriting is captivating and inspired, and the whole album is just this fun listen from beginning to end. 8 songs, a little over 43 minutes, that seems like the perfect length for this kind of sound. If you enjoy the likes of Messa, St. Vitus, or even an old school band like Captain Beyond, you will love what the Ossuary has in store. Next, we have Savaged with Rising. The sophomore album and the second in 18 months from this Spanish band is such a refreshing change of pace in this style. The band harkens back to that 80s sound perfectly while still sounding relevant in 2025. From the incredibly powerful vocal delivery to the full-on musical attack to the production that feels like the best metal album of 1985 that you've never heard. This has both that classic and the 21st century vibes for an album and a band that can make it very far. If you dig the likes of Halloween, Enforcer, and even Lizzie Borden, you will find something to love and appreciate about Savaged. This is a short and sweet album at 9 songs and 36 minutes, and they leave it all on the table for you to enjoy. Seriously, if you dig the style, you need Savaged. Next up is The Storyteller with The Final Stand, a Swedish power metal band that has been around for over 25 years, and I'm just hearing about them this year because of this album. How could this possibly be? Well, I hope this remedies that situation, as this is one of the most fun power metal albums I've heard so far in 2025. The songs are a full-on display of force, and the performances on display are mesmerizing. And talk about inspired. This is a band that, despite being their 7th album in 25 years, still sounds just as fresh and as natural as if it would have came out in 2000. It is a fun, fast, whimsical, and adventurous piece of power metal that should satisfy anyone that's looking for something in the fantasy realm, or if you just love power metal. For any fan of Iron Savior, Bloodbound, Vianity, and even Falconer, although very different vocally, give The Storyteller your proper attention. Be it a longtime fan or just discovering them for the first release like I have, I think you're going to be won over. Next up, we have Trolled with an album title I know I'm going to get wrong, and I apologize for it. I Skolvens Reich. This is one that I've also been meaning to get to for months, and sadly it didn't happen until now, but that doesn't take away from the quality of this one. The sophomore album from this Denmark band is an incredibly inspired album that knows exactly who they are, and they make the most of it. The production is brilliant and it shines. The songwriting is so much fun, and it never loses the heavy tendencies, and the performances on display are an incredible thing to hear time and time again. I can't imagine this would win over any non-folk metal fans, as this is like pure, unadulterated folk metal, but if you are a fan of the genre, and especially if you love a band like Fintroll, if they've never toured together, they really should, you are going to love what you hear from Trolled. This is how you give folk metal justice in 2025, make it your own, and of course, have fun with it all. Who couldn't use some fun in their lives as a break from reality in 2025, am I right? And finally, for all the albums that I'm talking about today, and technically my 500th album review in 2025, is the band You Win Again Gravity with Don't Leave Me Here Part 1, in what I hope is really a tribute to Zapp Brannigan in the band's title, and now that I think about it, it also could be a reference to Leela in the album title, although that could be a stretch. The 3rd album from this UK band is my first foray into the band, but I love what I'm hearing. I hear as much modern progressive metal a la the Contortionist and Tesseract and Haken as I do 2000s emo, post-core from bands like Finch, and even some mathcore like a band like Misery Signals, which I was not expecting. All of this makes for a formula that, had this come out in like 2009, 2010, they probably would be one of my favorite bands of all time. But in 2025, it's a winning combination of genres that just feels so rewarding to listen to, and it just hits so hard, and it does harder and harder in every repeat listen. Give this one a proper listen if you're intrigued at all by what this could be for you, as it instantly won me over, and if you give it the chance, it might just do the same for you. And I can't wait to see what Don't Leave Me Here Part 2 is all about. First up, we have Ashen with Chimera. The debut album from this French act really resonates with me in a way I wasn't expecting. Musically, it is hitting everything that I expect from the 2020s metalcore and modern metal sound, but lyrically, it is hitting me quite hard, and every song feels like a gut punch after another gut punch. It makes sense that they are hitting a lot of the emotions that people put up with in their everyday lives, but maybe are never really talking about out loud, like anxiety, the state of the world, personal struggles, etc. It is the way that it is performed that may not be for everybody who checks out my reviews, but if you push yourself out there, especially out of your comfort zone, and check out something that's more radio friendly, you may find something that you can also resonate with like I have after I received this promo. The production is slick and polished, and the songs go exactly where you would expect them to, into a left turn that you just don't see coming, which is a refreshing change of pace in this style. If you want to see a different take on what 2020 struggles can look like in a catchy and an earworm style of modern metal, give Ashen your proper attention. Next up, we have The Biscuit Merchant with Tempora. First off, I will start by saying that you really should check out my interview that I've done with Justin Lawnchair of The Biscuit Merchant up on the YouTube channel to learn so much more about this project and the album as a whole than I can in a blurb review. That said, this is the 10th album that comes from The Biscuit Merchant, and this one really focuses on the likes of Devin Townsend, Opeth, Dream Theater, etc. But if you want it done just a little bit heavier and sometimes even a little bit catchier, this is something that you really need to give your full attention. Thankfully, with what will be a 26th album endeavor under this moniker, each album named after a letter of the alphabet, Tempora will be showing off some impressive songwriting and performance, all while finding a way to never go fully self-indulgent and wanky, which I know sounds odd on paper with 26 albums, but trust me on this one. The songs are about the songs at hand, and while they are quite technical and they hit so many different levels and subgenres, it all makes sense and are comprehensible, and it will make so much more sense once this full cycle of alpha is complete. Back all of that up with incredible production value, and easily you have one of the best progressive death metal albums of 2025. While this may be an overwhelming concept to comprehend, let alone listen to, give Tempora a shot and see if it's right for you. If you like the heavier side, it's there. If you like the more melodic side, it's there. If you like the more genre-bending side, that's also there as well. And no matter what direction that you like, there's going to be an album that caters more to that style in this concept known as The Biscuit Merchant. This is how you push forward the subgenre of progressive metal. Seriously, check out The Biscuit Merchant. Now we have Byzantine with Harbingers. Byzantine is a band I've been familiar with since their debut album, and now that they are back with their 7th album, the band continues to progress their sound into much different territories. Be it a bit more industrial on songs like Stick Figure back in the day, or songs that sound like basically a pitch-perfect example of what Evergrey could sound like if they were Americanized on a song like Nadir, or something that continues their blend of progressive groove metal, which they've always had since the beginning. With Harbingers, though, the band continues with the latter, with hitting something that you would expect from the band that is there in the forefront of that new wave of American heavy metal sound. You'll hear everything from Lamb of God to Meshuggah to Machine Head and even Gojira on this one. It all makes sense once they add their own blend of songwriting into the mix. With excellent production style and a wicked sense of songwriting, the band knows how to grab your attention and subvert your expectations in a way you don't even notice because it feels so natural. The band has always been an unsung hero in this style, and I'm glad over time that the band has started to get at least some of their flowers. I hope this time they will continue to do so and keep winning over fans as they always have. This is a fantastic release. Here we have Fairyland with The Story Remains. A band I simply did not expect to return due to the circumstances has come back in full force with The Story Remains. A title clearly talking about rising back up like a phoenix from the ashes. Fairyland returns with their 5th album and their first since the death of their keyboardist and original member Felipe Giordana. The band has gone through many of a big lineup change, with 3/6 of the band being brand new for the new album. But thankfully, for longtime fans of the band, the spirit of the band is as strong as ever. From its grandiose songwriting to its authentic production style, Fairyland proves that they are here to stay. The band still hits just as hard, and it is full of emotions. There has always been many downs and so many ups over the past 5 years, but it's great to see with The Story Remains that the ups are becoming stronger and stronger, and they're becoming one of the best shining examples of 21st century symphonic power metal. If you've never checked out the band before, or you're just happy to hear that they're back, give this one a proper listen. Fairyland is home. That's exactly what we needed. Next, we have Fallujah with Xenotaph. Fallujah has been another band that I've been following ever since their debut album back in 2011, the same year that I started covering music. And Fallujah has been there to continuously win over people with their blend of tech death, deathcore, and progressive death metal. Over time, that deathcore occasionally shows up, the technical aspects are there in strides, but on Xenotaph, the band is really backing their progressive death metal side to full force, and I'm fully here for it. Between its clean but real production style, the songwriting has always speaks to me on this album, and again, they're embracing that proggy side, which is my favorite of what they do, and this might be my favorite album that they've done since The Flesh Prevails back in 2014. Hearing the band embrace more clean vocals, comprehensive yet intriguing song structures, and utterly catchy moments, this is on the short track of really becoming their best album to date to everyone besides me. Seeing the praise that they have been getting from the singles so far has been incredible, but hearing the album in context is a whole other trip that you need to experience. The Faceless meets the Contortionist meets the Zenith Passage all rolled into one. If you want one of the best examples of the extreme side of progressive death metal in 2025, check out Fallujah in all their glory with Xenotaph. Next up, we have Hex Vessel with Nocturne. Considering where the band came from in their post-rock and folk roots, it's shocking to me to see where the band is going with their full-on black metal at this point, while still having their earlier influences still in check. It is an odd thing to hear as much Dark Throne as I do Tangerine Dream, but this is what we have with Nocturne. The band continues to explore much of their post-rock, black metal, doom, folk, and even gothic moments, and it's an amazing thing to hear from beginning to end. The music had this raw atmosphere, but still has this grand feeling behind it all, and there's so much genre bending that makes the music feel like it's shape-shifting right in front of you. The album is meant to represent nights, and that is the perfect time to listen to this one. Put this one after the sun goes down, turn off some lights, maybe put on a candle or two, and let the music flow over you. I've done similar, and it makes for the album to be quite the trip. If you want your black metal more on the experimental side, you really need to give Hex Vessel your proper attention. Next up, we have Insomnia with The Great Apocalypse. Sweden's Insomnia is back with their 6th album since 1999, and they are another shining example of quality over quantity. They always take their time to make sure that they are going to put out the best music that they possibly can, and in 2025, The Great Apocalypse is exactly what we need in power metal and just life in general. Everything you love about the genre is here on full display, and even with them hitting some tough subject matters, like this is a heavy album, not just musically, the band does it in such a fun way that their styles of catchy choruses, fast and heavy riffs, and this triumphant feel that you get from the style is still there to put a smile on your face. The album is a call to action for the world, and yeah, we really need that right now. If you enjoy the likes of Halloween, Stradivarius, Vianity, and the occasional Ed Guy moment, you will love what Insomnia is all about. It's a battle cry for 2025, and let's hope that an album like this can lead us to victory. Here we have Massetti with Odds and Ends. The debut album from the solo project of Tiago Massetti is filled with pure wonder. This has everything that my teenage self in the mid-2000s would have loved in a progressive metal album. It has the full assault that Symphony X brings, especially in their early work, the odd time signature chops that you'd expect from Dream Theater, the musical heaviness that you expect from Opeth, and the occasional quirky moment of Devin Townsend brings into his solo material. Add all that together, and you have an album that feels like an album made for my 2005 self. Add other herbs and spices to the mix to make everything feel pure and authentic, and you have an incredible display of what can be done with more of the traditional side of progressive metal. The production style hits right at home for the style, and the songwriting, while familiar, feels brand new as well, and it makes for a fun album experience all the way through. If you miss the days of prog metal in the early 21st century, more than just the downtuned jet D guitars, the brutal breakdowns, and you just want that metal side of prog to be in check, Massetti is doing that in strides, and I couldn't recommend it more. Give this one a proper listen and be prepared to love what you hear. Here we have Nightbearer with Defiance. The third album from this German band combines the best of old school death metal and death metal rolled into one glorious package. While the music is predominantly the OSDM sound that everyone who loves the past from bands like Dismember, Entombed, Grave, etc., the band incorporates these absolutely gorgeous melodeath moments as well in just the right spots to tie everything together in the best of ways. The production does have that HM2 pedal worship that you know and love, but they also have this melodic atmosphere to it metal, and you just don't get that from this side of death metal, and it feels so rewarding to listen to time and time again. The songwriting balances everything together like a fine line that makes everything shine. This is what I wish more bands in the OSDM style would accomplish. While I do love the sound so very much, you have to do something that differentiate yourself from the pack, and that's exactly what Nightbearer brings to the table once again. If you want a refreshing take on two legendary genres combined together to create something that stands out among the best in 2025, Nightbearer is exactly what you need. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Pale Skin with Euphoric End. The sophomore album for the Swedish outfit feels like a gut punch to your emotions. The band combines so many different influences and styles into one particular style that doesn't feel contrived or a hodgepodge of sound, and it feels all natural. And at the same time, it still messes with your senses. It is not often that you hear a band that sounds as much like Catatonia as it does Deftones, as it does Loath, and I dare even say Death Heaven at times, although not really so much in the black metal screams. Mix all that together with a crystal clear production style and songwriting that knows when to shift and when to hold on to a riff, and you have a band that feels like anyone who enjoys the style of 90s alternative all the way through post-black and everything in between can find something to love. The lyrics and atmosphere on this one is off the charts, and you can hear and you can feel how hard it hits when you let it. While it may not be the cheeriest album that you hear all year, it is quite the cathartic trip, and in 2025, I think everyone could benefit from that. If this sounds intriguing to you at all, I highly recommend giving this one a proper spin and see what they can do for you. It's possible you might be completely won over. And now for all the albums that I missed along the way, starting with Absent Colors with Withered. This goes to show you how far behind I am on some albums, and this huge catalog that I have backed up that I've been trying to whittle down. This came out all the way back in January, and I'm just getting to this one now. That is no indication on the quality of music, as the debut album from this North Carolina band has some serious songwriting skills, and they have put out a killer release. The band hits all of the high points of that modern metalcore sound that can hit while so many heavy moments of the past as well. There is electronic moments of the sound, there's the occasional clean vocals that make the music even catchier, harsh vocals that really remind me especially of the self-titled album from Bury Your Dead. If that sounds familiar, yeah, you should check this one out. And the right mix of lighter, heavier, and genre bending to make for an album experience that any metalcore fan can find something to love. The production is polished, but it still has some authenticity behind it, and especially on the darker side of metalcore, this band knows how to tug at the heartstrings. If this is your bag, give Absent Colors a shot and see if they do it for you as well. It's well worth your time, and it shows what metalcore is capable of in 2025. Now we have Chronosynthesis with Echoes of Forlorn Tales. The debut album from this Italian band hits everything that I love about symphonic power metal, from the fast and heavy riffs to the keyboard wizardry to the soaring vocals of Marino Sagermano, who also sings in the band Ghost on Mars, who I covered last year, and they put out one of the best prog metal albums of 2024. Seeing what this band reaches when it comes to their influences in this particular style, while putting their own spin to it all, is a rewarding thing to hear, and it makes the album more than worth checking out from beginning to end. Everything that you love about the style is here, and it's done authentically. If you enjoy the likes of Stradivarius, Versailles, and Rhapsody, you need to check out what Chronosynthesis is all about. I think you'll be very happy with what you discover. Here we have Degenerate with Rituals of Rage. Now this is how you regenerate some life in a thrash metal. This album is a beast from beginning to end and only lets up enough to show you some melodic passages before pummeling you back into the ground. The production on this one is one of the best I've heard in thrash in 2025, and it sounds massive. The songwriting on hand is incredibly brutal, but again, the right amount of melodic moments and other genre-bending moments. I even hear some black metal on this one at times. It's such a rewarding thing to hear. Imagine a grand mix of Warbringer, Sodom, Creator, and Toxic Holocaust, and without a shadow of a doubt, you have one of the best thrash metal albums of 2025. I simply can't do anything to sell it better than that. If you love thrash, pick this one up right now. Next up, we have Dorcas with Raised from the Dead. The debut album from this Mexican powerhouse is not at all what I would have expected, but that makes it even more of a treasure to find. It what feels like a grand mix of Children of Bodom, Arch Enemy, and even a band like Lutharo. It's all rolled up into one big package that couldn't sound better. The songs are so catchy and hit riffs that feel so familiar but truly stand on their own. They also nailed it when it goes into the extreme end of things, when it goes into the more mellow death or mellow black side, and when to go into more gorgeous clean vocals that shine in the highest of ways. The production is quite clear and punchy, though I imagine that this will only get stronger with every subsequent release. And again, that songwriting is the winning formula, combining all of the right styles done at the right times. Dorcas is far away from being a major player in metal realm. If all the stars align, they're going to be so huge. Check them out if you think you'll find something to enjoy here, and prepare to be blown away. This is a band that has the sound to create something new for the world. Here we have Eden's Apple with Primordial Roots. The debut album from this Portuguese band is an unexpected delight, hitting moments of symphonic metal, alternative metal, and the occasional melodeath moments, making for a formula that feels so catchy yet unexpected, especially on that first time listen. The fact that they can go from the likes of Lacuna Coil to Tristania to the unexpected Wolfheart moments that just adds so much to the music is an incredible thing to hear. The production is exactly what it needs to be effective, songwriting style makes you pay attention from start to finish, and the overall vibe of the album is intriguing and compelling. This is some awesome work from a band that I know is going to get stronger and stronger from here on out. I can't wait to see what this band does next. Next up, we have Hate Within with Tomb of the Tormentor. Symphonic deathcore has really been popping off over the last several years, and it makes me happy to see. The genre builds on the layers that can be added to deathcore to make the genre simply more by nature, and it adds so much to the character of it all by adding these symphonic and symphonic adjacent genres into the mix. That's exactly what Hate Within does with their debut album. A band comprising of bands from Finland, the UK, the US. The band takes the best and most brutal moments of deathcore and makes everything feel so much more sophisticated and grand. The breakdowns, the pig squeals, the start-stop riffs are here, but they feel much more like seasoning rather than the main course. The symphonics behind it all is what sells the band, and it makes for such a musical journey to explore. Adding guest appearances from Veronica from Flesh God Apocalypse, and one of my favorite guitarists, Angel Vivaldi, and you have an album that is so much more than just the deathcore label. In fact, there's a completely orchestral version of this album that goes along with it if you check it out on streaming sites. If you really want to get rid of the deathcore and metal elements out of this experience and just want a grand, heavy orchestral feeling. Having both sides of this band adds to the overall experience, and overall, the symphonic deathcore shows that it's continuing to grow and grow, and it deserves to do so. Hate Within is doing some magnificent work, and if you are intrigued at all by what this could sound like, go check it out. Next up, we have Hellfox with The Spectrum of Human Gravity. The sophomore album from this Italian band is a phenomenal experience that just keeps getting better and better on every listen. Combining the best of Finnish goth and Scandinavian melodeath rolled into their own unique blend creates an album that rewards you the more that you listen to it. The band never goes into full-on hyperdrive as far as speed, but it also doesn't need to. They just find the sweet spot of slower to mid-tempo that just satisfies the style in the best of ways. You mix all of this with a perfect production style for the music and songwriting that feels grand despite the fact that the music is just guitars, bass, drums, and vocals, and you have an album that is more than worthy of your attention if you dig the likes of Dark Tranquillity, Arch Enemy, and above all, the gothic era of Amorphous. If you like the idea of that, you should give this one a proper spin and be prepared to love what you're about to hear. Next up, we have In the Kingdom of Nightmares with Fading Light. The sophomore album from this metalcore band from Maine comes 15 years after their debut album. A lot has changed in the past decade and a half for both the band, the style of music, and the world in general. Seeing the band blend styles of metalcore and melodeath so seamlessly is so satisfying to hear if you enjoy the likes of Killswitch Engage, In Flames, Soilwork, and Unearth roll into one. The biggest upgrade to the band in that time is easily the production value. While the debut is a fun listen, it's rough listen compared to what they have become here. Add in also 2 new members of the band on guitar and bass duties, and you have a band that feels rejuvenated and ready to take over that New England metalcore scene. Seriously, if you love that second wave metalcore sound from the early to mid 2000s, this is required listening, and you'll be so glad that you took the chance on them. It's awesome to hear this sound with such authenticity in 2025. Maybe you can breathe new life into the genre, which deserves to shine once again. Here we have Lift the Curse with Don't Bury the Dream. The Texas duo that takes the catchiest moments of 21st century hard rock and melodeath rolled into one mainstream package is a shocking thing to see, but it couldn't have turned out better. To some, this may feel like sacrilege, but that may be why I like it so much. It's such a glorious mix of bands like Soilwork, Trivium, Breaking Benjamin, In Flames, and even Bless the Fall. The fact that this is not on modern hard rock radio right now, at least where I live, feels like heresy, and that needs to change. The music is predominantly deliberately sung with clean vocals with just the slightest amount of screams for heightened experiences in the heaviest sections. I know this will scare some people off that check out my reviews, and those who just want that more pure metal aesthetic, but if you give this band a chance, I think you might find something you really appreciate. I was instantly won over, and I love how they blend these influences into a band I could see playing arenas one day. Hey, people laughed at me back in 2011 when I said Ghost was going to play arenas one day, and well, look at them now. This is what should be leading the charge in mainstream rock and metal, and one day I hope they will. This is a killer album. Next up, we have Miss Kaplan with Heavy Eternal Ache. The debut album for this outfit out of Istanbul took me by complete shock, and they have the substance to stick around after that initial shock. A band combines this alternative, rock, and metal feel in the best of ways to create a sound that I wish more bands would strive to achieve when they make music like this. The production is so full and punchy, and the songwriting takes you in these unexpected twists and turns, but it never loses its catchiness. To make a comparison that feels off, but also feels kinda true, this is what I wish Hailstorm would sound like. A band that embraces more of the mainstream sounds but never loses the metal aspects and has some real power and tenacity in that music, especially in the vocal delivery. Add all of that together and you have an album that could win over anyone who enjoys the catchier ends of mainstream music from the 90s and beyond, but done with such a heavy twist to make you grin and headbang. I love what's going on here, and if you're interested at all in this sound, you really should check this one out. Here we have Our Frankenstein with Magnum Spiral Hotel. The third album from the Southern California band is such an intriguing mix of genres that instantly grab my attention. It's a mix of goth rock, industrial, post-punk, and other elements to create a sound that feels like the spirit of 80s goth for the 2020s, and I'm all here for it. The production is quite real, and for its style, it's not overly polished. The songwriting hits on so many styles, while still feeling like everything is meant to be there. That's no easy feat to achieve, but they pull it off. It's almost as if they Frankenstein the no, sorry for the pun. Bad pun is bad. But you get the idea. If you dig the likes of Typo Negative, Host, KMFDM, I think you'll find something to love about Our Frankenstein. Sometimes you just want to have this dark atmosphere that feels danceable and can be played at a Blade-style vampire club. This more than fits that bill. Up now we have Passengers in Public with Amnesia. The sophomore album from this Greek band hits a style of folk metal that I wish more bands would explore. It hits that style of Greek folk metal that feels sophisticated and rich while adding these moments of progressive metal and gothic metal that may sound strange on paper, but once you hear it achieved, you completely understand what they're going for. I've been having a hard time trying to compare them to any other bands, but the closest I could come up with is Villagers of Ionia City, and that is a great comparison to me. Otherwise, they just have this sound that feels authentically like themselves. And that is a refreshing thing to hear. The production is so punchy and it hits hard, and the songwriting is off the charts for what they're trying to create. If you want to take a walk down a different path, you should give Passengers in Public a proper listen, as they are creating something original, and it may just be for you. Next up is Phase Transition with In Search of Being. The debut album from this Portuguese band feels like a blend of bands that helped shape my musical obsessions in my formative years, and adding just enough modern and left-of-center moments to make it a refreshing change of pace. Mixing a sound that feels like Opeth, Niavlascaris, Tesseract, and Dream Theater, and it feels incredible to comprehend everything that's going on with that sound. The production hits so hard, and the songwriting, no matter the song length, feels like they've left nothing out and they put their whole heart and soul into this entity. This is what progressive metal in 2025 should be, or at least strive for, and I'm so happy that there is a band like this that are pushing the boundaries of this style of progressive metal. If you are in need of heavy but melodic progressive metal, I can't recommend Phase Transition enough. Give them your time and attention, and you'll be so glad that you did. Next up, we have Power Surge with Shadow Warning. The debut album from this international band consisting of members from Croatia, Serbia, and the UK is just a sensational display of throwing back to that 80s heavy metal scene, but done through a 2020s flair with it all. Especially if you love Armored Saints, you will love what's going on with this one, but you'll also hear the likes of early day Dokken with the occasional Queensryche riff for good measure. Add a production style that couldn't be more appropriate, and songwriting that hits harder and harder the more that you listen to it, and you have a revival metal album that is more than worthy of your time. This is how you take that classic sound and make it new once again. I can't sell it much better than that. If you dig 80s metal, especially of the Armored Saint variety, give this one your full attention. Now we have Prost with Believe Again, another debut album from an international band here consisting of members from France, Sweden, and Greece, creating a classic AOR sound and melodic rock that we all know and love. You can hear the authenticity throughout this entire album, and it hits hard with its riffs, the vocal delivery, and the overall vibe of this style that just works every time it's done authentically. Mix that with a production style that hits so nice and punchy without ever losing its highs, and you have a heavy hitter for an AOR album that just sinks into you and gives you everything that they got. 2025 has been a substantial year for the genre, and it makes me so happy to see that there is another album in the style that is doing some incredible music for that style, and I just love that era of AOR melodic rock. Just completely solid from start to finish. For anyone who loves the style, seriously, go check this one out. Now we have Snooze with I Know How You Will Die, a Chicago band that describes themselves as Meshuggah in major, and that feels completely apt, while still being able to explore so many other avenues to go along with that. It's strange to hear moments of the Dillinger Escape Plan, Muse, Hella, Meshuggah, and Devin Townsend all rolled into one jaw-dropping package. I can see this album going over a lot of people's heads, and they're not gonna dig this one, but I also see this being for a particular subset of an audience that loves a band that will push the boundaries of what prog, math rock, metal, and just exploring what a major scale in metal can be. You may not get this on the first listen, but if you keep listening to it, it will unlock for you the more that you give it a chance, and you'll be so happy that you took the chance. It hits so hard emotionally, musically, and explores territories of music that you just don't see coming. I can't recommend this for everybody, but if you love to take a plunge on something that sounds like this, something that is very left of center, you will be greatly rewarded. This is how you push the metal music genre forward. Next up, we have Sombre Tour with To Any World Beyond the Tomb. Now it's time to sit down, put this one on, and have a cathartic existential cry. The debut album from this one-man French melodic death doom band, it's everything that I love about the genre in a way that will rip your whole heart and soul apart. The production is raw, but it's done in a style that just fits, and the songwriting that knows when to get heavy and when to get more melodic and dreadful in the best way possible. This is easily for those that are looking for something in the vein of November's Doom, Bellicore, Insomnium, and especially early day Catatonia. If this sounds like something for you, it absolutely is for you. I love this genre so very, very much, and having an album like this in 2025 so early in the year just makes me so very happy. This one hits hard, so get ready for some emotional impact. Next up, we have Titan Killer with Slow Self-Destruction. With an album title and a band name like that, you're expecting some funeral doom here, right? But this is anything but, though it does come from a lot of the same sadness that you'd get from that particular genre. The sophomore album from this Austrian heavy metal band and power metal band hits you hard with a strong musical force. It is also an album of pure self-reflection. It's not that often that you hear an album like this that doesn't just go all guns blazing on the guitar riffs and the double bass. Of course, those moments are still there in pieces, but this is so much more of an album about the current state of the world and the life that we live. It's a very matured album that is for those of a particular subset of an audience, but I also know that the vocal delivery will not be for everybody and can be an acquired taste, but I think if you can fit in these particular molds, I think this will perfectly fit what you're looking for. Add all of this together and you have an album that could stand the test of time and maybe even leave a good message for the rest of us to learn one day. I thoroughly enjoy this one, and if you want a mix of Enforcer, Latter-day Skullfist, and the occasional Maiden nod, you should give this one your full attention. Next up, we have Waltari with Nation's Neurosis. It's been a while since I've checked out Waltari. In fact, about 10 years. But I'm so glad that I've rediscovered this band and all of its quirky moments, left of center moments, and an entirely catchy sound that I've loved. Faith No More meets Freak Kitchen meets Devin Townsend all mixed together with this Finnish sensation, and you have one of the most creative and catchy bands that have been going for decades upon decades now. Despite this being the 16th album since 1991, the band is so far from running out of steam. They always find a new way to reinvent themselves, and going back to albums that I've missed along the way since 2015, I remembered that, and seeing them do this once again in 2025 just makes me smile. The production feels like the 90s in the best way possible, and the songwriting, again, it's off the wall, it's bonkers, it's wacky, but it's still catchy at the same time. This is how creativity can work to your advantage, and never be afraid to let that freak flag fly. If you need something like this, then you need Waltari. I can't imagine you'd be disappointed if this style is your bag. And finally, for brand new albums that I'm checking out this week, it is Zigzags with Deadbeat at Dawn. The fifth album from this LA band hits a niche that I needed right now. A mix of punk rock and speed metal done in a way that just feels like that late 70s through late 80s ragers in the best of ways. The production feels like a Motorhead album, the songwriting can go all over in tempo from song to song while still feeling appropriate and catching those classic genre moments to perfection. Imagine early day Metallica, Plasmatics, Motorhead, and Municipal Waste all thrown together, and you'll have a good idea of what's going on with this band, and it works so very well. 10 songs, 33 minutes and change, just a full-on punk and metal party from beginning to end. If you want that in 2025, you need to hear what Zigzags is all about. Make sure that you got your battle vest dusted off and ready to be covered in beer and fire burns, because this is what this one is capable of, and it's quite electric. Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist here for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, here for another edition of Out Today and What I Missed, this time for June 20th, 2025. We have 30 albums on the chopping block this week, 4 that come out today, 26 I've missed along the way, 560 albums that I've covered so far in 2025, and make sure to come back next week when I cover another 40, making for a grand total of 600 albums that I've covered in 2025 so far. But before we get there, let's cover these ones. Let's get into it. First up, we have Black Majesty with Oceans of Black. Black Majesty have returned with their 8th album and their first album in 7 years with Oceans of Black. The long-running Australian power metal band has always put out fantastic work that includes some of the most inspired music in the genre. This time around, with a new guitarist and drummer on board, the band continues to explore what the band is capable of while never losing what brought them to the scene to begin with. The fast double bass and guitar riffs are here in strides, the vocal chops are still hitting everything you love, but there seems to be a little bit of a different feel behind this one. It's kind of hard to describe, but it does feel a bit darker than other albums without losing that triumphant feel that the band has had since the beginning. The vocals are also a bit quieter in the mix, but everything else shines through the darkness. This is an album that needs to be heard in 2025, and I'm so glad that Black Majesty has returned to create a power metal album for the ages with Oceans of Black. If you feel like power metal has been kind of slow in 2025, first of all, you're wrong, but second, you haven't heard the brand new album from Black Majesty. Next up, we have Hereaway with Wield. The debut album from this Philadelphia instrumental post-metal band has reinvigorated my love of the genre in a way that I didn't even know could be done. I've been a post-rock and post-metal fan for around 2 decades now, with some highs and lows that come with it, just like the music itself, but when I finally got to sit down with this album, I was blown away by what I was hearing. I hear everything that made me fall in love with the genre in the first place. The remarkably catchy main riffs, the roller coaster of emotions in the song structures, the excellent performances, the overall atmosphere that made this feel like a proper soundtrack, which is always my favorite part of any post band. There are the right moments of minimalist work, and then you flip it on set with some insane technical ability to balance everything out. For anyone who's never checked out these kinds of albums where there are no vocals, this is exactly why you need to give them a chance. Wield is the perfect example of why no vocals are needed. The band more than speaks for itself. This is easily going to be one of my favorite instrumental albums of the year, and it's more than worthy of your attention from start to finish, and it hits you in just the right moments. If you've never checked out instrumental post-rock and post-metal before, you really need to check out what Hereaway is all about. Next up, we have a band name that I'm going to get wrong, but I deeply apologize for getting it wrong. I'm Ha Terrakat with Confessing Darkness. This one-man project has returned with their 4th album, and it is some of the darkest black metal of this variety that I've heard so far in 2025. It hits the right blends of traditional black metal with almost hitting this post-black, post-gaze sound, and there's even some crust punk beats going on occasion and some other twists and turns that you simply won't see coming. There's also this sophisticated feel to the music as well, as it hits so many triumphant moments in this dark sect of music, and in a production style that lets everything sound profound, and you have one crazy album, so much so that there's even a cover of Thin Lizzy's The Sun Goes Down in a way that you'll never hear it like this ever again. Overall, this is a black metal album that grabs your attention and does not let go, and that's what I want in this genre. This is a strong and profound album for the black metal genre in 2025. Again, simply, this is how it's done. And finally, for brand new music out today, we have Patristic with Catexis, and I really hope I got both of those right. The debut album from this Italian blackened death metal band is some of the strongest of the genre in 2025 so far. The music sets this dark and evil overtone that casts a shadow upon the listener and creates 3 songs over 6 tracks. 2 tracks for the first song, 4 for the second. The music is this wonderful mix of profound and brutal with just the right amount of heresy thrown on top of everything. Enrico Schettino of Hideous Divinity created this project back in 2022, and now in 2025, it consists members of Mass Carnage, Frost Moon Eclipse, and others to round things out. From the blistering performances to just raw enough production, this hits everything that made early day black and death metal work and become so proper in the mainstay. If you miss the more raw approach to this style while still feeling like a proper soundtrack to being sent to hell, this is exactly what you receive with this band. Do not skip out on this one if you love proper blackened death metal. And now for everything that I missed, starting off with Au Clair de Lune, with In the Wake of Dusk. 3 albums into this Italian post-black and post-gaze band's career, and they have created an eerie but dreamy album that fits in this just comfortable enough but completely uncomfortable mix that this genre originally started as. It lures you in with this catchy post-rock atmosphere that feels like it's going to take you away on this whimsical journey, but then it blindsides you with this black metal approach that leaves a deadly strike on you. The production is quite raw, especially the mix, but everything is still audible and clear. For comparisons, imagine that middle era of Alcest's career if they had kept the original raw production style intact rather than getting much more profound. Maybe if Lantlos was still doing black gaze, that might be another way to look at this one as well, but it still keeps some of its dreamier moments. This is a purely emotional and raw trip that is worth exploring if you love this genre. While it won't be for everyone, it is for those that want one of the best examples of what that primal sound of black gaze and post-black is, while still finding it to be as gorgeous as possible. Next up is By Something Else with Hope. It's been a while since I've covered some tried and true progressive rock, and I've definitely had to do some when I came across the debut album from this Quebec band, taking the best elements of 70s and 80s prog rock while mixing things up just enough for a 2020s audience. And you have an album that is meant for the die-hard fans and for those discovering the genre for the first time. What makes all of this so shocking is the fact that the band has been around for well over 40 years, and this is their debut album. They say you can't rush your first album, and this is a prime example of that. The songs have this classic vibe that still sounds fresh and inspired, with just the right amount of prog flashes to keep the music moving and guessing. Make a mix of Marillion, Rush, yes, and even Porcupine Tree's middle area, and you have an album that reminds you of why progressive rock has lasted for so many decades. This is stellar work, and should be for anyone young and old who can appreciate pure, non-wanky progressive rock worship. Up next, we have Cruz Signatus with 2. The second album from this one-man band from Wisconsin is something that I wish I had known had come out sooner, but that's what happens when I don't get a promo, and of course social media algorithms make sure that you don't actually see the pages that you want to see. I love the debut album so much, and I actually did cover that in an interview, and I have been anticipating this one ever since, and it did not disappoint. Somehow even getting heavier than before, while still sounding profound, catchy, and the kind of genre bending that I fell in love with in the beginning. 2 is a cinematic soundtrack that hits on so many glorious moments of metal, electronic, and more. The production is stellar, and the songwriting hits so many highs and lows like a proper soundtrack, all while never losing your interest in the process. The imagination that happens within this project is mesmerizing, and it just shows what the imagination of David Fraser is capable of. I can't wait to see what 3 is going to be like in this moniker, and 4 for that matter, as the first 2 have been incredible so far, and it's only going to get better from here on out. Next up, we have Colt's Blood with Obscured into Nebulous Darkness. The third album from this UK outfit is the closest thing I've heard to Funeral Doom without being Funeral Doom in a very long time. This is deep, dark, thought-provoking, and tear-jerking in a display of what sludge and doom can be in its dirgiest form. The production fits the mold perfectly, and the songwriting, while long, is exactly what is called for to make the music effective. Every song on here is a dirge, but it will occasionally hit these moments that hit you like a tidal wave and feels almost like grindcore in comparison, but always keeps going back into that slow moments that makes you feel like you're being put back into the grave. If you've ever heard the album El Mundo Frio by the Japanese band Corrupted, this is what Colt's Blood feels like it really is. Also add in a sprinkle of moments like Conan and Coffin Worm, and you have an album that is tailor-made for the saddest of occasions. This thing rules, and while it won't hit everyone the same, those that are looking for something like this will be floored. Give this one your proper attention for those who love the slow doom of life, and you will love Colt's Blood. Next up, we have Elusive God with Ambus. The sophomore album from this Croatian band is pure, unadulterated, epic doom metal in the best of ways. It hits this perfect speed of slow, but not too slow, and never goes into anything past mid-tempo speeds. It's that satisfying speed that only this genre can pull off and still sound grand. The songwriting fits like a glove, and the production is so punchy and so full. While I don't speak the language, I love the vocal melodies on display, and it feels so rewarding to listen to over and over again. If you want your Candlemass worship with a Croatian feel and updated production, you should really give Elusive God your proper attention. This is doing epic doom metal the proper justice. Next up, we have Empereria with The Ascent, Sensen der Katharsis. Boy, I hope I got that right. The debut album from this anonymous German black metal band recaptures that essence of the dark, evil sounds of black metal and what it established decades ago, but updated for the 2020s. I can hear an unholy mix of bands like Emperor, Dark Funeral, and Rotting Christ, mixed in with a more contemporary black metal sound in the form of Emwa, Guerrera, and others. The production is pristine for the style and makes everything feel sinister. The songwriting is grand but never loses your attention, with a longer track lengths and songs technically being over 7 tracks, filling out the entire album. For this particular style, this is the 2000s versions of Emwa's Exercises in Futility, especially with it being one track spread over several tracks, with just a denser storyline and somehow even more depressing. This is what I love in the pure black metal sound, and I'm so happy that it's showcased here with Empereria. I can't wait to see what they put out next. Next up, we have Eschaton with Tectolitarian. That is a hard thing to say all at once. 3 albums deep into this New England tech death band, and they have more than delivered the technical brutality this time around. While this is my first foray into the band, I see what they used to incorporate with some more deathcore elements that seem to be completely absent on this one, which I'm all in favor as it really doesn't need it. It is an album filled with technical wizardry from everyone in the band, and it only gets more insane as the album continues. It can also be a bit much for some, and you might need to enjoy this one in several takes, but even then, it's very much worth it. The vocals remind me a lot of Summoning the Like, and musically, I hear so much of bands like Neuraxis, Spawn of Possession, and wait a minute, is that Christian Munzer? Yeah, he's in the band now. That would explain why I love the guitar so much on this one. Yeah, this is an absolute beast of an album, and the soul of this machine is getting stronger and stronger. If you want to hear what you love so much about 2000s tech death but done through a 2020s filter, check out Eschaton now. Next, we have Five Rings with their self-titled debut. After starting just last year, the debut album from this Japanese power metal band featuring members of Iron Attack, Lightning, Gauntlet, and Wrath of Noah, and also Illusion Force, is quite the power metal treat. It hits almost all of the tropes that you would love about the genre. The blazing fast songs are here, the mid-tempo sing-along songs are here, the slower epics, and everything in between. Mix all of that with an incredible production style and songwriting that knows when to get grand and when to get lean and mean, and you have a winning combination. This does do the thing where all the songs are in Japanese despite the song titles being in English, so if you're not into that, I understand, but I still feel like you need to check this out anyways, because the songs are so catchy even if you don't speak Japanese. This is such a fun album from start to finish with 9 songs and a little over 35 minutes long. It's just a perfect taste of what this band can do. And considering this is the first entree, I can't wait to see what they do next. Here we have The Great Sea with The Noble Art of Desolation, a debut album from this German black metal duo featuring the drummer of Long Distance Calling, a personal favorite band of mine, and the guitarist of Black Horizons is a monumental piece of black metal done in 2025. It is an album that couldn't feel more grand, but so bleak at the same time, featuring guest vocal appearances from the vocalists of Black Horizons, Secrets of the Moon, and Garb. They make for great touches to make this album feel even more inspired and dynamic. While the production feels modern, but also feels like it was created back in 1997 at the same time. It's a very odd thing to say, but when you hear it, you'll understand. 7 songs, almost 42 minutes long, this is perfect for the style, and it leaves you with enough dread to want to go back and listen to it again immediately. This is such an incredible album for black metal, and I hope more people will check it out. I know I'm late on covering this one as it came out back in April, but I am covering it now, and it is more than worthy of your attention. If you love grand sounding black metal, you need to check out The Great Sea. Here we have Idle Airs with Life is Violence. What a devastating piece of post-metal this debut album from this duo truly is. The music has this hauntingly tragic feel behind every track, whether it is more on the heavier side of post-metal or more on the ethereal side of post-rock of things. Everything strikes hard, and it feels so immensely strong. When a band can channel their inner Coalesce, Mogwai, Amenra, and Cult of Luna into one core sound, it's going to be bombastic and diverse. And speaking of Coalesce, Sean Ingram of Coalesce is one half of the band along with Josh Barber, renowned producer of many metalcore bands. They have two very different approaches in their resume, but it is a force to be reckoned with when they work together. Having two people known for their metalcore and mathcore roots doing a post-metal album, it's going to have a very unique sound to it all, and it will be very powerful to the punch with every track. And that's exactly what you get with Life is Violence. If you were into post-metal like I am, but you want a little different take on it all, you need to give this one a proper shot and see if it hits you the same way that it's hit me. It's a phenomenal take on the genre, and you might just hear that for yourself. Next up, we have Imminent Sonic Destruction with Floodgate. 4 albums into this Detroit metro area band, and it's truly something special. It hits all the right elements of what prog rock and prog metal hold so dear in 2025, while adding this overwhelmingly emotional state to the music. This is easily their most diverse album that they've done to date, and it hits this element of intensity in so many of the dynamics that it's hard to put my finger on, but when you hear it, it's there. The fact that I can hear bands like Porcupine Tree, Alice in Chains, Dream Theater, Tool, and Soundgarden, all done with such authenticity and serious emotion behind all of it, it just keeps getting better and better every time that I spin it. Imagine if there was a progressive, sludgy, and grunge band equivalent to Alice in Chains' Dirt, and I think you'll have Floodgate. Add on phenomenal production done by Nick Hagen, who is just amazing at what he does, whether he's holding an instrument or doing production work, and you have a prog album that can stand the test of time. If you've never heard the band before, you really should give them a shot and see if they're for you. It keeps getting better on every listen, and it just might for you as well, if you're into this style. Next up, we have Kneel Before the Death with their self-titled album. Symphonic deathcore is reigning supreme as of late, and it's great to see a new outlet in this debut album from this Finnish outfit. Taking a majority of the deathcore playbook on this one, there's a lot of tropes that you would expect, from the breakdowns, to the start-stop riffs, to the insane vocal delivery, but there is this added layer of symphonics on top to give it this more prestigious feel behind it all. It does give me the feeling that the deathcore elements were written in mind first, but I'm always for adding more layers to the genre, and it makes it more enjoyable to listen to time and time again. The production is deep and punchy and exactly what the genre calls for. 10 songs in 47 minutes does feel right for an album like this, and it does hit hard all the way through. I'm very curious to see where the band goes from here, but until then, I truly appreciate their take on symphonic deathcore as a whole. Up next, we have Lamenting Satanas with Invocations. The sophomore album from this American black and death metal band is quite the trip. Featuring 4 anonymous members, the band explores a heavy take on death metal, the raw approach of black metal, and adds several other genre-bending moments of folk, acoustic, classical, and other moments to make the music feel greater than the sum of its whole. The production is quite raw, which still adds some of the charm to it all. The songwriting is easily the best part of the album, with its exploration of sound. It can get as heavy as Blood Incantation, it gets as blackened as a band like Ashenheart, and mixed in with the Black Dahlia Murder, and you have a truly fun listen. The production won't be for everyone, but if you want a different take on what black and death metal can be, you need to check this one out. There's so much potential for this band, and I can't wait to see where they go next. And here we have Laser Throne with Tomb of the Lunar Oracle. In an album that I randomly stumbled upon, I was instantly intrigued by. The debut album from this one-man band out of Tucson, Arizona is a jaw-dropping display of what can be done in an otherworldly realm of black metal. Especially for a band that does incorporate some dungeon synth, this has some killer production behind it, and that's something you don't always get in the genre. And the black metal elements make you feel like you are trapped in this nebulous void from where there is no escape, but at least you enjoy the sounds that are being played. I oddly say this would be a really good pairing with the new Labyrinthus Stellarum album. It's different from that, but both have enough charm behind both of it in kind of similar styles that you could play them back to back, and it makes sense. 4 tracks and a little over 41.5 minutes does make this album feel like quite the journey, and it feels so satisfying from start to finish when you listen to it time and time again. If you want an adventurous take on black metal, I think you might dig this one. I think it's only going to get better from here on out. Next up, we have Marsh T with Disturbances in Movement. This is a very peculiar album. The debut album from this Finnish band featuring past and present members of Children of Bodom, Red 11, and more is a prog album that I never would have expected, but I am so happy to have come across it. It gets as heavy as Dream Theater or Pain of Salvation, and it hits some quirky moments in the vein of Haken or Vola, and it just explores all these other herbs and spices of their own design and creates a unique take on dark progressive metal. I'd highly recommend this one if you really enjoy the new album from Ryogan, which I covered earlier this year, as they have a lot of left of center moments like this as well, and have other similarities for that nice dark progressive metal sound. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this one as I listen to it, but I think that's a sign of an album being with a lot of potential staying power, as it may click and become a new obsession, and it gets closer to that every time I listen to it. If you want something different in your progressive metal, this is more than worth the shot. You may really enjoy it. Here we have Nail by Nail with Embraced by Darkness. The debut album from this German black metal band feels so dark, cold, and exactly what I need. Featuring the live guitars of Imperium Decadence, a band that I very much love, the band features this unearthly feel behind its black metal approach that feels almost scary at times to listen to, and it feels like you're about to face your demise. In other words, it's absolutely authentic when it comes to black metal. They also mention that they are of the black death metal variety, which I do hear some occasional death metal elements, but this is very much a black metal album. The production is raw, but with the music behind it, you won't even notice. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Svartvinter, Tarfod, Valendusk, and others. This is a chilling album that gets me every time I listen to it, and if you want something in that vein, you really need to see what Nail by Nail is all about. And now we have Sargeist with Flame Within Flame. The legendary Finnish black metal band is back with their 6th album in 22 years. The production is still as haunting as you remember it being. The songs are so fun and catchy to listen to, and the coffin spirit of the band is still in full force. While the band has never reinvented the wheel when it comes to their sound, they've never needed to. All they need to do is create an atmosphere that feels perfect for their blend of satanic black metal that is memorable and can still give you the occasional chill every now and then. At 9 songs and a little over 40 minutes, this is everything that you expect from the band and more. I will say the more I listen to it, the more I love it, and it just fills this dark void in the style that has been missing in the last seven years since they've been gone. For everyone not familiar, this is the band that you need if you love bands like Satanic Warmaster, Moi, and Spectral Wound. Sargeist have come back during a dark time of life, and couldn't that be more appropriate? Next up, we have Spark of Life with Plagued by the Human Condition. The sophomore album from this LA band and the first album in 22 years is something that I couldn't be happier to have stumbled upon. The band hits this right concoction of punk, hardcore, emo, etc. into their blend of melodic hardcore and post-hardcore with some of the most relatable lyrics I've heard in a very long time. I know the vocal delivery on this one won't be for everyone, especially those who check out my normal list, but I recommend giving this one a proper shot. 13 songs and a little over 39 minutes is very appropriate for an album like this. The production is quite raw and feels almost like a demo, but I also think that's kind of the part of the charm of this album. It's raw, but done in a way that you really want to see what these songs sound like in a live setting. This is easily for those who love the 90s, 2000s post-hardcore scene, done by those who were around at the time. Again, this might be a rough sell for those who typically check out my normal reviews, but if you have an open mind, which I would hope you would have if you check out what I do, check this one out and see if it does anything for you. It hit me in a way I wasn't expecting, and it might for you as well. Next up, we have Stateside with Where You Found Me. What can I say? I like the occasional pop punk, and it can hit me like a ton of bricks when done correctly. That's exactly what happened here with the debut album from the SoCal band. The band almost gets into post-hardcore territory with the occasional use of screamed backing vocals, but it is very much focused on the cleans, which couldn't sound more pleasant to the ears. It's not too high-pitchy, which you would hear in a lot of normal pop punk, nor are they whiny. They are in this higher middle register that makes you really enjoy what's going on in front of you. Mix that together with these super catchy riffs and a songwriting style that's all about the substance and no need for frills, and you have my kind of pop punk. Again, I throw in the occasional curveball in my listening habits. This is not for the funeral doom, grindcore, prog metal, or black and death metal crowd, but if you enjoy the occasional earworm hook and chorus done by a very simple and effective style and very relatable lyrics, give Stateside a chance. I'm loving my time with the album every time I put it on, and you might as well. Up next we have Stepping Sideways. with Rebirth. The sophomore album from this Louisiana band is my first foray into the sound, but I'm instantly hooked. Checking out their debut album, the band used to have a lot more progressive metal elements and a bit of a djenty sound to it all, but it was still very catchy. On Rebirth, the band is clearly living up to the album title, as the band has really scaled back on the prog elements a ton. Not completely, but it is not a focal point anymore. The band still has a lot of intricate moments, but their catchiness comes first and foremost, and I can say I really appreciate it for that reason. You can tell the talent is here in the band, but sometimes you just gotta make simpler songs and they'll make them better. The production is so slick and polished, you can hear so many great elements of rock and metal throughout. It's strange recommending an album for those who enjoy Breaking Benjamin, Beartooth, Sevendust, and I would even say bands like Mutiny Within, Times of Grace, and Tesseract, and I truly mean that when I say that. This is an odd case of a band showing off their prog chops while still becoming very close to what mainstream radio could be playing if they would actually take a chance. But that's exactly what Stepping Sideways is achieving, and I want to see it happen. Keep up this momentum and see what could be done. I'd much rather have this sound on FM rock radio. Here we have Strange Heaven Autumn with Deteriorate, and they more than live up to their band name. This is such a wild musical brew, and it has me so intrigued. The debut album from this northeastern band combines what feels like elements that should not work, but they make them work perfectly. The music reminds me so much of what happens in instrumental bands like Polini, these atmospheric moments of bands like The Contortionist, but also math rock and almost emo, post-hardcore elements of bands like The Fall of Troy, all rolled into one. The production feels pristine and exactly what the music needs, and the songwriting goes all over the place but somehow still finds home. This is 100% not for everyone, and I'd honestly proceed with caution for those that are not normally into this style but checks out other stuff that I do. But if you check out quirky, off-the-wall, left-of-center rock and almost metal moments, you may have a new favorite underground band with Strange Heaven Autumn. It may not hit you right away, but if you give it time, everything will unlock, and you may just be happy with what you hear. Here we have Some of All with Time to Leave. The debut album from this AOR melodic hard rock band is one that I instantly fell in love with, and you just might as well if you enjoy the style. It's a different take on what you would normally hear in this genre, as things feel a bit lower in tuning. It's not extravagant or bombastic in its sound either. They are writing hard-hitting, emotionally driven, and heavy topical lyrics in this sound that is so catchy and memorable. While a lot of music in this style is all about fun, this one's about the state of the world and what we do in life. Match that with a perfect production style for this style, and the songwriting that plays exactly for what is called for rather than flash, and you have an album with a message, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. If you dig the likes of Eclipse, Wet, and Wheels of Fire, give Some of All your proper attention. Next up, we have Tears is Heaven with Downfall. The debut album from this Italian band is something that I wasn't expecting at all, but it wins me over every time I listen to it. It has this amazing ability to be catchy and rocking, all while having the cinematic, post-rock, and even goth rock elements that take you by complete surprise. The production on this one feels a bit unpolished, and it's just about where it needs to be, but it can be overlooked by the quality of the songs at hand. This is one of those rare occasions where I am completely lost onto whom this band would even be compared to, but I will say it does get dark, heavy, emotional, and it does feel like a soundtrack to a film that you've never seen. If that's your bag, check this one out. I enjoy what I'm hearing, and I'm so curious to see what this band will do in the future. Here we have Watch Out Stampede with In This Moment That We Have on Earth. 5 albums into this band's career, and they may have their magnum opus, combining that perfect elements of crushing riffs, catchy choruses, and the occasional off-the-wall moments, and you have a band that really gets as much for the early 2000s metalcore scene as it does the 2020s. The production is deep and punchy and full of layers. The songwriting is both bonkers and captivating, but it's all done with this gaze of creating something that will be memorable. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Awaken the Dreamer, the early era of the 500, and an even more streamlined band like Blacktooth. 11 songs and close to 36.5 minutes long, and it feels like this flies by so quickly, but that's all the more reason to go back and check it out for all there is to see. If you want to see an unconventional take on what modern metal can be in 2025, check out Watch Out Stampede. They are doing an exceptional job of pushing the boundaries, but never losing the hooks. That is no easy achievement, but that's what keeps me interested. Absolutely solid work. Next up, we have Witch Rot with Soul Cellar. The sophomore album from this Toronto band blends shoegaze and stoner metal in a way that feels like you're floating on a dream that you got a little too high from, but you're also about to face your doom. Featuring past and present members of Cauldron, Crazy Bones, and even Panzerfrost, this album feels like a beautiful and haunting dream of an album that you can zone out to just as much as it will take over your soul. The production is simply perfect for the style at hand, and the songwriting is what I expect from the stoner style, but having these elements of shoegaze, a little bit of prog rock, and straight up doom, and that's what grabs my attention. Also, the amazing vocal delivery by Leah Alessandra Reto, and this is one of the best I've heard in this style in such a long time. When it comes to stoner, it takes a lot to truly stand out from the pack, but this is exactly what's going on with Witch Rot. Do not skip out on this one. Whether you enjoy the style or not, you will find something to love here if you give it the proper attention. And finally, for brand new albums that I'm covering this week, we have Wretched Path with Sea of Death. Finland's Wretched Path is doing what needs to be done in death metal to keep it fresh in 2025, capturing the past, present, and future, and making it all come alive. Undead. Finding that mix is no easy feat, especially when it comes to making something as captivating as they do on their sophomore album. But that is exactly what's going on here, and it's such a treat to listen to time and time again. I can hear as much At the Gates as I do Bloodbath, as I do Nightbearer, and so much more. This is the kind of death metal album that should be heralded for what it is accomplishing and pushing the genre into new territories by also celebrating the past. 8 songs, almost 31.5 minutes, pure, unadulterated death metal in the best of ways, with no 2 songs sounding the same. Wretched Path should be the next big name in death metal, and if there's any justice in the world, they will be. Let's make this happen, folks. Give them a spin, and give them the love that they deserve. First up, we have All Men Unto Me with Requiem. The sophomore album from Ryan Gleave of Ashenheart is one of the most unique albums that I've heard all year, and it's absolutely not for the faint of heart. This is an experimental album that hits everything from noise to doom to post-rock to drone to electronic, and so much more. This is a creative endeavor that you truly don't know where it's going no matter how many times you listen to it. It's dense and it's full of layers, and no two tracks sound the same. Even though all of this, the music flows together and holds your attention. If you enjoy this style of music, that is left of center. I would highly recommend this for anyone who appreciates the work of Toby Driver, of K.O. Dot, Model Under the Well, and other work, and want to explore the true meaning of genre bending. This will go over a lot of people's heads, and rightfully so, but for others, this is a dream album. Let your ears be the ears of a beholder, and check this one out, if you dare. Next, we have Blood Vulture with Die Close. The debut album from Jordan Olds of 2 Minutes to Late Night, very funny YouTube show, is a combination that I never would have imagined worked so well as it does, and it blows me away every time that I listen to it. This is a concept of a vampire struggling to be an outcast in the world, and it feels like the world is devouring itself in the same pace. A grand mix of gothic, doom, sludge, grunge, and more that feels like an album that came out in 1995, but was remixed and remastered for 2025. The music goes all over the place, from some of the most slow, crushing riffs that you could imagine to full-on double bass assaults to those procky riffs that feels like it comes straight out of nowhere, but it couldn't feel more appropriate. And again, those sludgy and grungy moments that are not my usual typical bag, but in this context, it really shocks me and it feels quite welcome. The fact that I hear as much Alice in Chains as I do Baroness, as I do Typo Negative, as I do Chemist, feels like a combination that shouldn't work, but it couldn't be more effective, and I love every second of it. If this is just the first chapter of this concept, I feel like the music will just bloom further and get even stronger as the story goes along. Even with this many listens, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this album, and I love it for that reason. It feels so good to the ears, and it just grows on me more and more with time. If you think you'll dig this one, trust me, you will. Give this one a proper shot and prepare to be blown away. Next up, we have Heaven Shall Burn with Heimat. The legendary German metalcore melodeath band is back with their 10th album and 25 years since their debut album, and the band still sounds just as hungry, angry, and everything else that has made me a fan since I discovered the band with the album Anticon back in 2004. The band combines this brilliant mix of the heaviest ends of metalcore, the brutal moments of melodeath, and the brilliant melodic moments of both ends, and you'll have one of the most best examples of genre bending in these genres. The heaviest songs on here are pure crushers, and the melodic ends are heart-wrenching and filled with so much emotion. Mix that with a production style that is raw but still punchy, and it has an aggressive take on the state of the world, and this is going down as one of the best albums in the band's discography. As usual, the band does a cover, and this time they're doing one of my favorite bands, Killswitch Engage, with their rendition of Numbered Days, and it actually features Jesse Leach of Killswitch doing some guest vocals. Their version gets even heavier than the original, and I love it for that. And hearing Jesse do such an impeccable job of it 25 years later is such a great thing to hear. Of this grand mix of melodeath and metalcore, this is easily one of the best of the year, and Heaven Shall Burn proves why they have been in the game for so long, and with no intentions of stopping anytime soon. If you love either genre, you need to check this one out and prepare to be floored. Here we have King Witch with Three albums into the Scottish band's career, and they have put out one of the best examples of epic doom metal in 2025 so far, if not the entire year. The production is beyond stellar, the songwriting is classic, and it hits just as hard in the modern day, but what makes it stand out is the performances on this album from everyone in the band. While currently just a trio of vocals, guitar, and bass, and some hired out drums, this feels like a band that has at least 10 people performing on it. Of course, I have to point out the vocal performances of Laura Donnelly, who feels like a reincarnation of Messiah and Dio in female form in the best of ways. I can't stress this enough. This is one of the best epic doom metal albums of 2025, bar none. If you enjoy the obvious likes of Candlemass or a more updated version of doom bands like Witch Mountain and Sahedron, who I reviewed just earlier this year, you need to check out King Witch. Do not miss out on this one. Here we have Nicholas Sonne with Electric Dreams. The debut solo album from the singer of Evil Masquerade, Defecto, and Ari's Descendant is one of the most bombastic albums I've heard in recent times. Sonne is a master multi-instrumentalist and proves that in his other bands, and everything that he records is always on par with some of the best of the respective genres that he covers in that particular year. This time around, he is covering everything that he loves to play, sing, and listen to all in one package, and it's such an enjoyable experience. It's the kind of album that just makes you grin from ear to ear as you listen, as long as you dig the styles anyway. With the impeccable vocal range and absolute shredding ability, Sonne has put out an album that rivals bands that do anything from prog metal, power metal, shred, AOR, and more, and shows how it really can be done. The production is perfection, and the songwriting is off the charts. This is how you make a fun album that shows all of your cards, but still leaves a little bit of mystique. If you want a pure, unadulterated, fun rock and metal album, check out Electric Dreams by Nicholas Sonne. Next up, we have Power Hill with Generation X. The debut album from the Swiss farm metal band is a fun, tongue-in-cheek look at 80s glam, hard rock, AOR, and more, but with a farmer's touch in the lyric department. It's a strange take to take these sounds of bands like Slaughter, Firehouse, Faster Pussycat, and make them about raising cattle, milking cows, and cleaning stables, but they found a way to do it that makes you feel like you're listening to the good old days, but gives you a good chuckle at the same time. All you have to do is look at their official cow mascot, and you'll see the seriousness that you should take this band, but that is not to say that the music is subpar. The music is well crafted and has a lot of thought and power behind it. Whether they're doing ballads or the heaviest that 80s glam rock ever hit, Power Hill does it all, and it makes you tend to the land at the same time. If this sounds like a fun time to you, or you're just curious to see what this band could possibly even be about, you really should give this one a proper shot. Growing up in a small farm town like I did, I can appreciate this one, so maybe you will as well. And now we have Sodom with The Arsonist. Sodom have returned with their 17th album, and they prove that they never left the top of their game in the 21st century. One of the leading examples of the Big Four of German thrash has put out another classic example of their seminal sound, but they continuously updated just enough to show their evolution and staying power. The band has all the signature sounds and continues to mess with tempo changes, style changes, and never losing sight of what the band has accomplished in over 40 plus years of recording albums. The production is raw, but it's just polished enough, and above all, authentic. The songwriting is inspired, and I can only imagine how hard it would hit live. Angel Ripper and company have easily put out one of the best classic thrash metal albums of the year, and continuously put out albums of bands of their era to shame with their quality. If you want proof that the longevity doesn't mean that you have to go stale, check out the new one from Sodom. While unfortunately they're going to be taking a break from the live setting and potentially never coming back, and I'm sad I never got to see them live, I thank Sodom for everything that they've accomplished, and I hope this doesn't mean that they're done making music as well. And finally, for brand new music out today, we have TSS with End of Time. The third album from this French modern metal band, and the first one under the moniker of TSS, is not my normal foray into music, but I can't deny how catchy this album is, listen after listen. A very heavily electronic album filled with modern metal tropes, going from some of the heaviest of breakdowns, and even black metal screams, to the catchiest of mainstream radio courses, and everything in between. Again, I normally don't go down this path in my music listening, but there's something about the earnest display here of a band wanting to explore more than just their earlier emo roots and getting into heavier territory, while still keeping this French background intact with a lot of their lyrics being in their native tongue, and again, the genre bending on display that just has me so intrigued. I love it when a band can change their perspective and hit moments that could bring Me the Horizon and Poppy fans together as much as those who enjoy synthwave, emo, deathcore, experimental, and more in the same show. Give this one a shot if you want to see how mainstream yet diverse 2020's modern metal can be in just one album. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting with Aeon Winds with An Ode to the Mountains. The fourth album from the Slovakian band hits right at home with those looking for a dark tinge to their black metal, but still wants it to feel very grand. While the production does have this raw approach that you'd expect in a lot of 90s black metal, you'd be surprised how many layers are attached to the arrangements and especially the instrumentation. It feels like a mix of latter-day Emperor, early-day Dimmu Borgir, and a ton of limbic art. It's a rewarding mixture that unlocks the more that you listen to it and discover everything that it has to display. It matches up to the album title, as this does feel like a mountain of an album, but if you give it time, you'll see climbing this album was more than worth it. Now we have Exilium with Myth of Mankind. 3 albums since 2018 for this Italian folk metal band, and they just continue to get bigger, better, and stronger. With a gargantuan 9-person lineup, you can hear the metal side and the authentic folk side collide together to create a style of folk metal that feels natural and rewarding to listen to time and time again. The production is clear and it lets you hear every layer of instrumentation on display, and the songwriting goes from the most ethereal folk to the heaviest ends of folk metal in just one fell swoop. It also gets better the more that you listen to it. You'll obviously hear nods to Helveti, but I also compare this to the likes of Neopera, Valork, and Trolled. This is such a fun folk metal album that is more than worthy of your attention. Next up is a band name and an album title that I really hope I get right. Amalcam with Sheer Hashiram. And if I got that wrong, I deeply apologize. 3 albums into this Italian-Polish band's discography finds the band at their best state to date. The production is brutal and so clean, particularly for the genre. The songwriting hits hard and is filled with nods and ends to other genres, while staying tried and true to the black metal genre. Above all, the performances here are the main selling point. This is some of the most competent and well-crafted straight-up black metal I've heard all year. Coming in at 8 chants over 38 minutes is the perfect length for an album like this. Again, this is some of the best created black metal I've heard all year, and it only gets better the more you listen to it. Give this one a proper listen if you dig the likes of Watain, Dissection, and Moi, and you'll be floored by what you hear. Now we have Answer from Sickness with De Sundre. The third album in 6 years from this French one-man band is quite the sight to behold, combining cosmic black metal, atmospheric black metal, and I dare say a little DSBM and post-black into the mix, and you have an album that hits like a ton of bricks. The album feels like you are drifting into space and getting sucked into a black void, but there's this occasional majestic melodic part that makes you feel like you're seeing something truly magical in front of you, to make your impending doom feel almost worth it. It feels like a true album about loneliness that one can feel in the metaphor of using space, which a lot of cosmic black metal does, but it hits hard when you think about how that applies to Earth and how it can apply to your own life. The production is quite enjoyable and stunning for a style that is normally regarded as raw and sometimes even unbearable, especially in the production style. Mist E is doing some phenomenal work here and lets you enjoy the wonders of space and the bleakness that comes with it. If that's how you enjoy your black metal, you definitely need to check this one out. Next up, we have Akrust with Waving at the Sky. The sophomore album from this Norwegian band is something that grabs your attention, no matter your love of prog music, and it keeps your attention from beginning to end. I completely missed the boat on their debut album 2 years ago, but I'm so glad to get on board with this one, as it captures so much of what I love about prog as a whole, while keeping out the wank that really comes with a lot of it. It's rare to find a band that I can hear as much Between the Buried and Me as I do Porcupine Tree, as I do King Crimson, as I do Opeth, but that's exactly exactly what happens here. It feels like a true tribute to the genre of progressive rock and explores the most melodic, mellow, heavy, and polarizing moments of it all while holding a predominantly clean vocal approach, while there is the occasional scream or two, and a refined songwriting style behind it all. The production is outstanding and truly lets everyone shine. It's a dark album, as you would imagine with their influences stated above, but it is held together with such authentic songwriting that makes you want to go back to it time and time again to explore. If you think prog has been lacking this year, first of all, shame on you. You've missed out on a lot. But second, check out the latest album from this up-and-coming band. It won't be long until they are heralded as one of the best of the genre. Now we have Brian Eckerman with The Fall from Heaven. 9 albums in 11 years from the San Antonio one-man band, and it's my first foray with the music, but I really enjoy what I'm hearing. Just one listen to his work makes me wish that I would have heard him sooner, as this is some truly fantastic work. Brian does everything on this album, and it goes to show that sometimes the best course of action is to handle everything the way that you want it done to be able to achieve that goal. The music goes across the board from black and death metal, and handles it all with this finesse that you just wouldn't expect on the first listen. The music can go from hitting some of the most brutal and extreme moments, but it always comes back to these absolutely majestic and melodic passages and riffs that tie everything together and holds things there for a majority of the time. Think of a band like Old Man's Child with less extreme elements, and that's the closest I could get to a comparison. This stands out on its own, and it's great to hear something like this that can hit so many levels but always come back to the style of uncomfortable ease that keeps your interest and makes you wonder what is coming next. If that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, give this one a shot and see if it really is for you. Now we have Cotton Action with Out of the Cold. The sophomore album from the Swedish and Portuguese band is some sensational music in the style of AOR and melodic rock. While the production is more raw than you would typically get from the style, it does give the sense of like demos from the mid-80s that you've never heard of until now. The songs are filled with 80s glory and their catchy choruses, lean songwriting, and captivating performances. It truly hits everything that you want from that 1975 to 1989 sound, done in a way that feels authentic and straight from the heart. Sometimes you just want to hear a raw, pulsing, from the heart display of AOR, and that's exactly what you get with Cotton Action. If I can't sell it with those words, nothing else I could say would. If this sounds like it's of interest, give this one a proper listen. Now we have the almighty Cryptopsy with An Insatiable Violence. Making up for lost time, Cryptopsy is back with their second album in 2 years, and their second album in 13 years, and the band feels like they never missed a step. With Cryptopsy, there are certain things that you'll always expect from the band, outside of that one particular exception. That technical prowess, the jaw-dropping vocal range, Flo Monier's impossible drumming style that I could never achieve, and the overall sense that you're being beaten senseless from pillar to post from beginning to end. If the album title is not a dead giveaway of that you're going to get all of that and more, just remember that the band has been proving that they're still at the top of their league in the past several years, and there's no sign of stopping anytime soon. The production is just clean enough, but still raw and very real. The songwriting is as pounding as ever, and it reminds me why you became a fan of them in the first place. While the band is not really experimenting with their sound in present times, they don't need to be. They know exactly what you came to them for, delivering music of the absolute extremes of extreme metal. This is what every brutal band has strived to do ever since Cryptopsy came on the scene, and so many try to copy them, but no one will ever duplicate what they're capable of. Check out what the Montreal Masters of Extreme Metal are doing in 2025, and remember why there's only one Cryptopsy. Now we have Dead End Irony with Battles and Brotherhood. The debut album from the third band from Finland with Dead End in their name that I'm aware of thankfully sets himself apart from the other two. Dead End Irony goes into more of a heavy metal and power metal route, where it feels like it kind of has that proto-power metal sound with a nice full dose of heavy metal balancing everything out. The production style is thick in the right ways and lets everyone shine, and the songwriting is endlessly catchy, whether it's a slower track, a mid-tempo stomper, or they just go a little bit faster. They never go full guns blazing, but they really don't need to. Add a war and battle theme to all the songs, and you have a band that is for anyone, from Sabaton to Manila Road to Nivian to Claymorian. If you want an inspired take on all of this, check out what Dead End Irony is all about. I'm eagerly awaiting to see where they go from here. Here we have Dolvin with In My Grave, Silence. The third album in 9 years from this Portland band featuring members of Agalok, Traveler's Rest, Efferens, and Canvas Solaris is quite a welcome surprise to my ears. Never hearing of the band before, I have seen this album talked up and I was intrigued by the notion of acoustic doom and if it could have the same emotional impact on the dark as the dark side of doom can have. I've learned that not only it can, but it might hit even harder as the vocals are so clear and the lyrics will hurt that much more. The production is pristine and the performances on display are exactly what is called for to be effective. While having obvious nods to other bands, I also hear a lot of early day Ancient Wisdom, the Chachwin, and the Jars of Fly era of Alice in Chains. Add all of that together and you have one of the most intriguing doom albums of 2025. And if you're intrigued by that notion, you should give Dolvin a spin and see if they are for you. I was pleasantly won over, and you might be as well. Now we have Flight of Icarus with Terra Nova. The third album from the Swedish duo is some of the most moving music that I've heard in this style in quite some time. It can get as heavy as metal tends to do, but the vocals are pure pop influenced of that 80s to the 2000s sound, and the atmosphere is dripping in 80s synth, 90s new age, and the cinematic touch that makes it feel like a soundtrack to a film that you've never seen. With this much time under the belts, they are exploring more of what is possible by pushing the boundaries of all the genres they want to perform and pushing what genre bending is all about. The album cover gives such a good insight as to what the album is going to sound like, given the space feel behind it all, while still giving so much room for a mystique that can only be heard to understood. This is an album that sounds gorgeous from start to finish, and I highly recommend this one for anyone who enjoys the solo work of Annika van Giersbergen, the duo known as Silent Skies, or if you want to hear what Enya might have sounded like if she was in a heavy band. I can't say this will be for everyone, but for those that find this idea interesting, you need to give this one a proper listen and check it out for yourself. Next up, we have Glass Island with Shallow Graves for Shallow People. The fourth album from this Polish progressive rock band is a true sign that progressive rock is hitting hard in 2025. Sure, there's not as many pure prog rock bands that have put out albums so far this year in 2025, but that could easily change with the second half. But when they hit, they go right for the jugular. For this album, I hear a band that has taken an approach that is hitting hard and heavy in the right spots, but focusing so much more and more minimal approaches to the songwriting and staying away from the rankiness that can really drive the genre. This is more for the fans of the middle era of Porcupine Tree, you know, the Lightbulb Sun, Stupid Dream era, Lunatic Soul, or Lunatic Soul, depending on how you pronounce it, and the latter-day Riverside stuff. And even bands like RPWL will really find something to appreciate here. The production feels both modern and vintage at the same time, and it's quite the achievement. Overall, this is an album that hits harder and harder with every listen. The lyrics hit you like a ton of bricks, and when they connect with you, and the overall atmosphere of it all, it feels like a sad but relatable look at the modern day. If you want a fun but sad look at prog in 2025, make sure to give Glass Island a look, as they have more than earned a shot to your prog ears. Now we have a band name that I think is pronounced Irreverie with The Absence of Light. The debut album from this North Carolina band is pushing the boundaries of what metalcore can be, and I'm all here for it. This hits some of the heaviest moments that I've heard in the genre this year, and balancing out with these amazing melodic moments and catchy choruses that feel like you're really going in a journey of the soul. It's not often you can hear a band that is channeling bands like Converge, Counterparts, and The Contortionist all into one sound, but that's what's going on here. The production is polished as you would imagine a modern metalcore album to sound like, and the songwriting is so well crafted. Especially for a debut album, I'm highly impressed by what's going on with Irreverie, and I imagine some great things will come from them in the future. Jump on board now if you want to see what the future of metalcore can and potentially should be. Next up, we have Kusanagi with Paramnesia, the third album from this Liverpool band's career, and they have crafted one of the best post-rock, math rock albums I've heard in a very long time. Combining the best of both genres and never going too far into either genre is a fine line to walk, but they have nailed it in the sound, and it feels so rewarding to listen to time and time again. The guitars lead you on this otherworldly journey while the rhythm section does its best to keep everything just grounded enough. The production is crystal clear and you can hear everything on level just as it's intended. I couldn't recommend this more for the fans of likes of Long Distance Calling, and So I Watch You From Afar, and Maybe She Will. This is an invigorating life into these genres in a way that I didn't know needed to be brought back to life, but Kusanagi is delivering the goods in the best of ways. Seriously, check this one out if you enjoy these styles, as it's going to be hard to top this album in 2025. Now we have Light of Vimana with Neapolis. So, this is album of the year worthy in every single way, at least to my ears. Jeremy Lewis of Mesmer, Ricardo Conforti of Void of Silence, and the legendary Deha have created one of the best displays of Gothic Doom in 2025. This hits every single layer that I love, from the soul-draining tempos, to the crushing production, to the genre bending done in the slightest of ways, to the spectacular performances from everyone involved. From the orchestrated synths to the blood-curdling vocal displays to the overwhelming display of despair in the tones. This is everything I live for when it comes to Gothic Doom, and I couldn't possibly recommend it more. If you want near funeral Doom levels of Gothic Doom, check out what Light of Vimana has in store for you. Trust me, this won't be the last time I talk about this one this year. Now we have Lord Helmet with Take Evasive Action. This couldn't be more appropriate to talk about, as Spaceballs 2 will be tentatively coming out in 2027, and the announcement trailer just came out a few days ago as of recording this. The sophomore album from this Canadian prog band hits every level of electrified prog rock that I thought was gone from a lot of people's radar. It gets nice and heavy in the right spots in a King Crimson and Porcupine Tree kind of way, all while making things feel very lively and fresh in a Haken and Muse kind of way. And then you add this 80s layer that shouldn't work, but it makes everything catchier in the vein of like 80s David Bowie or Joy Division and Simple Minds. It sounds so odd on paper, but when you hear it, it all makes sense. The production is as 80s as it gets, and I wouldn't want it any other way. The songwriting goes all over the place, but it never sounds like a hodgepodge of sound, and the performances on display are spellbinding. This is how you make an astounding and fun prog album in 2025. With all of that said, I really want to know what Rick Moranis would think of this album and this band. Well, I'll say for myself, this band does give great Helmet. Now we have Monumentum Damnati with From Beyond. The sophomore album from this duo was such a delight of a dark album to listen to time and time again, feeling like a grand mix of symphonic black metal, melodeath, and dark metal, mixed in a way that doesn't feel contrived, and it feels as authentic as possible. From Beyond hits the highest realms of what these genres and more can sound like when done in a well-crafted manner. The production does this ebb and flow with the mix, sometimes sounding fantastic and sometimes hitting a style that makes you turn your head and make you wonder what's going on, but that's also part of the journey. The songwriting is on point and it keeps your attention through all 11 tracks and 45 minutes and change. Somehow this all comes off sounding like an unholy mix of Dimmu Borgir, Septic Flesh, and Daylight Dies all rolled into one. Overall, this is an incredible trip of an album, and if you enjoy these styles, you should take the plunge and give this one your proper attention. Next up, we have Morgoo with Ocean Grave. The debut album from this Albanian band is a dark yet enchanting look at what progressive death doom can be, and it leaves a haunting impression. It mixes the genres of progressive, death, doom, post-metal, and more to create a concoction that leaves a striking impression. The production is a bit rough, but it also adds a bit of character to the music. I can hear elements of bands like November's Doom, Enslaved, Woe Unto Me, and Cult of Luna all over this one. It's a rough listen as it hits hard on an emotional level, and that's exactly what you need to go into for this music. While it's not for everybody, especially if you're having a good day, and maybe you shouldn't put this one on, it is for those that are looking for the brooding death doom album that messes with your expectations and leaves you guessing. If you want that in 2025, check out Morgoo. Next up, we have Neurotech with Exo Escapism. The 11th album from this one-man Slovakian band is my first foray into this project, but it's left me intrigued. Between the styles of industrial, electronic, dance, and metal genres blended together lies a project that feels like it is from the heart, and it hits harder and harder on repeated listens. The production on this is one that exactly is what it needs to be effective, and the songwriting, it's endlessly catchy. If you dig the likes of Cybreed, Pain, and especially Master Boot Record, this should be something that should be right up your alley. I get entranced every time that I put this one on, and it's a fun ride. And if you need something like that in 2025, and honestly, who couldn't use something like that right now, check out what Neurotech has in store for you. Now we have Obstruction with The End Takes Form. The sophomore album from this Gothenburg outfit is an intriguing mix that I can't get enough of. Mixing 90s death metal, especially with that HM2 pedal, and 2000s metalcore into a sound that just hits so nice and heavy. The production is that perfect sound of mixing both styles, and the songwriting does the same. Imagine a mix of Entombed, Hatebreed, and Earth Crisis, and you have a band that will not be for everyone, but if you enjoy the more hardcore style of things, and you want that with a nice heavy mix of metalcore and death metal, Obstruction has nailed it for you. 9 songs, 33 minutes and change, and filled to the brim with pure, unadulterated intensity. It's short and sweet, that's exactly what it needs to be. Now we have Enfant with Dimsval, and I really hope I pronounced both of those right. Featuring past and present members of Despite, Aeonian Sorrow, Void of Hope, and Arctura, Enfant is a band that is hitting the deepest levels of what satanic black metal truly can be. The raw but effective production style, the songwriting that feels grandiose, yet it feels like you're entering the gates of hell. That overall vibe of 90s black metal mixed in with just enough herbs and spices to make it sound like it's its own entity, and you have the fifth album from this Finnish band. Of course, the obvious influence on this band is Dark Funeral, but I would also recommend this one for anyone who enjoyed the new Malphas album that I just covered a little bit ago, Wattane, and even at times, Carpathian Forest. Yeah, it kind of gets a little punky at times. This is a stunning display of how effective black metal can be in 2025, and it only pulls you in more and more as you let it flow through you. If you want your black metal in its truest essence, give this one a proper spin. Next up, we have Pewter Aeon, and I hope that's how you pronounce it, with Mountains of Madness. Despite the band's debut album coming out in 2011, this is my first foray into the band with their fifth album, and oh, how I wish I heard them sooner. This is what I love about the classic sound of death metal, but updated just enough to be effective to still work in the modern day. The production sounds vintage, yet it's so audibly clear thanks to the mixing and mastering of the almighty Dan Swano. The songwriting takes you on twists and turns that you simply won't see coming, especially for a genre that is as tried and true as classic death metal can be. This feels like a gargantuan album, and the themes and lyrics match up with the music to give it that feel. Even at 9 songs and just about 40 minutes long, when you finish this album, it does feel like you conquered a mountain. Not an intentional pun, but hey, it works. Every time that you spin it again, you get that same satisfying feeling. If you want a great mix of Grave, Morbid Angel, Unleashed, and At the Gates, you need to give Pewter Aeon your proper attention. Next up, we have Pewter Aeon, and I hope that's how you pronounce it, with Mountains of Madness. Despite the band's debut album coming out in 2011, this is my first foray into the band with their fifth album, and oh, how I wish I heard them sooner. This is what I love about the classic sound of death metal, but updated just enough to be effective to still work in the modern day. The production sounds vintage, yet it's so audibly clear thanks to the mixing and mastering of the almighty Dan Swano. The songwriting takes you on twists and turns that you simply won't see coming, especially for a genre that is as tried and true as classic death metal can be. This feels like a gargantuan album, and the themes and lyrics match up with the music to give it that feel. Even at 9 songs and just about 40 minutes long, when you finish this album, it does feel like you conquered a mountain. Not an intentional pun, but hey, it works. Every time that you spin it again, you get that same satisfying feeling. If you want a great mix of Grave, Morbid Angel, Unleashed, and At the Gates, you need to give Pewter Aeon your proper attention. Next up, we have Slizzard with Wicked Tales. The debut album from this LA band is a fantastic mix of the past and the present, and it feels so satisfying to hear time and time again. Mixing what worked so well in the 70s and 80s era of heavy metal, and updating the sound just enough for some 21st century audiences, while having this authentic feel behind it all. The production is that modern vintage sound that always works, and the songwriting can go from the grand scales to simplistic riffs, and it makes it all for the music to maintain this interesting sound, and it leaves you wondering what will come next. They can do everything from Scorpions to Metal Church to Doro to Royal Thunder on this one, and it's a fun combination to hear it on repeated listens. If you're looking for a modern revival metal sound, I can't recommend this one enough. It's a solid listen. Up now, we have Slumbering Sun with Starmony. The sophomore album from this Austin, Texas band featuring members of Enforcer, Destroyer of Light, Temptress, and Monty Luna is quite the treat for those who enjoy their doomed in a varied and vast direction. This hits nearly every style of conventional doom tropes while never truly letting you know what path they're going to be following. The production is crystal clear and the style is so cool to hear, especially with that songwriting that feels so fresh and inspired, even with hitting those familiar genre types. You'll get nods to everything from Black Sabbath to Pallbearer to The Sword and everything in between. If you want a loving tribute to the more melodic and dare I say fun side of doom, Slumbering Sun has a little bit of everything for you, and it makes a great listen with Starmony. Seriously, give this one a shot. Up next, we have The Soundbite with Still Quiet, the 5th album from Trom Engum of The Third and the Mortal, who recently reunited last year, is my first taste of what this project is all about, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't get into like Keodots or Merzbow styles of avant-garde and experimental music, but you truly don't know what you're going to get with any particular song until it starts playing. It can go from post-metal to folk to electronic to 80s goth to ambient in the blink of an eye, but it can also happen so gradually you won't even notice. Production is profound, and all the styles at play and the songwriting, while it's off the wall, it does fit in context with everything else on the album. This is absolutely a case for it not being for everyone, but if you like your music eclectic, this is one of the finest examples that we have in 2025 so far. This might take like 2, 3, maybe even 15 times for you to truly get it, but once it unlocks for you, it'll make the whole journey worth the destination. If you dare, give this one a shot and see what the soundbite is all about. Now we have Sun After Dark with Tatkraft. The debut album from this German duo is one of the most adventurous albums that I've heard in the heavier ends of music in 2025 so far. It's not an easy listen by any means, and it forces you to pay attention to everything that's going on. This is not kick back and listening music. Pay attention to this one. It will hit you with a genre change-up that you simply won't see coming, yet it makes so much sense when you see how it plays out. This hits so many different styles of gothic metal, industrial, black metal, progressive dark metal, and more. Feeling like this really strange mix of Celtic Frost, Rammstein, Dark Fortress, The Vision Bleak, and more. The production fits the mold without being too polished or too raw, and the songwriting, again, it goes all over the place, but not in a wonky way. It makes sense in context. I don't think you're gonna hear another album quite like this one in 2025, so if you're up for it, give Sun After Dark a shot and see if they pull you into their realm. Next up, we have Under Ruins with Age of the Void. The debut album from this German outfit featuring past and present members of Them, one of the most underrated bands by the way. Remember Twilight, My Own Black, and Anguish have come together to create a triumphant and astounding slab of heavy metal and power metal. This is very much of the proto-power metal sound, so it never really hits the blazing fast double bass or the killer guitar twin sound or those insane vocal ranges. This is much more of like the Manila Road, Visigoth, and Beholder style. That is that more slower to mid-tempo movements, but extremely pleasant vocal deliveries and an overall epic feeling when you hear it. The production has this modern vintage sound with the best qualities of both styles, and everyone on display is doing an exceptional quality work here. I'm not sure if this album will get as much attention as the aforementioned Beholder, but they deserve to be in the conversation for one of the best revival metal albums of 2025. If you dig the style, give them a proper listen, and you'll see their magic unfold. This thing rules. Now we have Vanvid with an album title I know I'm gonna get wrong. As Vil Ritualer. If I got anywhere near that, I don't know how, but it's really hard. Just look at it. The folk metal has been coming back strong in 2025, and I'm happy that we have another album of it. This time, it comes from the third album from this Norwegian folk metal band. The band takes a very different approach than what you consider to be normal in the genre. While it does explore a lot of folk instrumentation and styles, it's much more of a seasoning than a focal point. There are a ton of orchestral moments on this one that makes the music feel very epic in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise. You mix that in with some more extreme metal and even prog metal elements, and you have an album that stands in its own field. It's an intriguing mix that I would say works well for those that appreciate the likes of Moonsorrow, Managarm, Kalma, and more, while still having their own sound. If you want a different take on what folk metal truly can be, see what Vanvid has to offer. Now we have Wildheart with Wild in 3. I love that pun so very much. 3 albums in 11 years from this Belgian rock band, and they have created some inspired and rockin' 80s tribute music. This has everything that you would expect from the better segments of the 80s rock scene, hitting that monumental musicianship and what I can only imagine would be a really fantastic show to see. The production has that 80s sound as well down to a perfect T, and the songwriting feels like an album that was made in 1984, but unearthed now in 2025. I can't sell it much better than that. If you want a band that does the best elements of bands like Rat, Dokken, the 80s era of Whitesnake, and Taiketo, you need Wildheart, and you need them now. Now we have Wrath of Belial with Embers of Dead Empires. A shocking mix of tech death, melodeath, and thrash aligns with Wrath of Belial and their sophomore album, which comes 8 years after their debut, so you can imagine a lot has changed since 2017, and this album is a great example of that both for the band and for life itself. This is a brutal album that has so much melodicness and thrashy moments that you just wouldn't expect in the style. Having full-on guitar solos rather than just a few bar leads is a welcome change, especially playing this sound. The production on this one is punishing, and I can understand why some people might even get like ear fatigue on this one, especially because the drums and cymbals are louder than everything else on this album, which you don't normally get, but it is also pretty cool to hear it that way as well. But the music more than makes up for everything with this unholy trinity of genre bending. Imagine Cattle Decapitation, The Black Dahlia Murder, and The Crown all rolled into one, and you have one of the most monstrous albums of 2025 that will pummel you into the ground from beginning to end. You may need to proceed with caution, especially if this isn't your normal listening habit, but if you check it out, you may find a rewarding listening experience. And finally, my 600th album review of the year is You Vandal with This Is Where People Come to Die. Being a metalhead for over 25 years of my life, and probably closer to 30 at this point, it's not often that I hear a non-metal or rock album that specifically gets me as excited as a brand new metal album would. But I do have soft spots for some non-metal and not rock albums, and well-made pop punk is one of them. Upon hearing the 5th album from this Florida band, it's one of the best examples of an album that can excite me even for the heavy of music fans while doing exactly what they want. This masterful mix of 2000s pop punk, emo, 90s alternative, and more just makes for an electrifying album to listen to time and time again. While I hear so many influences from bands like Bad Religion, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, and others, I don't hear any exact parallels. They are taking these ideals and making them their own and creating their own trail in a well-treaded genre. No two songs sound the same, which makes the music even more exciting to listen to. If you normally check out my list, you were likely checking out stuff in the rock and metal worlds. Sometimes it's nice to take a break and check out some well-crafted music in other fields, like the punk genre. And that's exactly what you get with You Vandal. All I ask is that you give a track or two a chance and see if you agree. You might be surprised by what you discover.